Oh, hopefully you can hear me now. I was trying to, it's hard to get everything set up in here. I got to work on the clouds. I just realized it kind of just cuts off abruptly. You see that? Like, I thought it was kind of cool, the mist, but then it goes boing and stops. But anyways, I'll figure that out at some other point. But I like the mist. That's right. I don't have anything set up in here either. None of my bots or anything like that are set up, or you know, anything. This channel doesn't even have super chats or anything like that. But just prior to the show, somebody called up on the phone number that I use and did the Domino's pizza joke again. So I'm a little bit leery that somehow it's not going to work. I think you're going to get trolls calling in. But maybe we can do the version where people call in on the Zoom. Right? Trying to see how many people. Oh, I actually have 40 people. That's not too bad on a random personal paranormal live. Well, I think you might need to have Zoom on your phone. And what I'll do is I'll create a screen off to the side. This isn't something I was prepared for because it just sort of happened right before the show, and I was like, oh, here they come. Here come the trolls. So, that's unfortunate. So let me try to get Zoom running. But hopefully you guys are going to call in. Are a lot of you going to call in and tell your stories? Hopefully. Okay, so Sonny's calling in. Yeah, put a 1 if you got a story that you're going to call in and talk about. Yeah, let me see how to, I'm trying to figure out how to do this by phone. Can't people call in by phone here? I've seen it on here. Yeah, you need Zoom. If you can get Zoom, that would work. Okay, I think this might work. Alright, I think I have a phone on this. Okay, I'm going to put a text on the screen of the number to call in on personal paranormal experiences. Hold on. U.S. meeting ID. Okay, U.S. meeting. Okay, this is U.S. Trying to figure out what these instructions are. It'll just be a second. Sorry about the trolls out there. That always cause some issues. Alright, well there you go. So give that a whirl. Alright, give that a try. See if that works. And you don't have to have your face on the screen. I'll never even show the Zoom screen. How about that? That sound good? So what we're doing tonight is that people are going to call in and talk about their personal paranormal experiences, things that they've never been able to explain, and they're a little bit skeptical themselves. I mean, you don't have to be skeptical, but I'd like to have the stories that are like, wow, that's crazy. Crazy in a good way, you know. Like we're freaks, but you know how there's negative freaks too. Oh, cool, little lady. A lot of people didn't even know I had a channel. They believe it's sort of contrary to facts only. Well, the thing is there really aren't facts in some of these things. The facts are as what you remember seeing and doing, and those are the facts. You know, they're first-hand accounts. They're not somebody else told you a story and then you're telling somebody. Alright, so there's the number. See if you can get it to work. I don't know if it's a phone number or... I think that's the Zoom app information, but you can try it. I think there is a... Let me just try this on the side, see what happens. Mooah. I'm going to see how this works.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You are in the meeting now. There are 1 participants in the meeting.
Hello, hello, hello. See, that worked. That's all you got to do. You just dial the number, put in the meeting ID, and hit the pound key. You don't need that other ID number, okay? So go ahead. Any of you that were going to call in, well, there you go. Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hey, how's it going? You're the first caller on Personal Paranormal Experiences, PPE.
Okay, Gray, it's nice to speak with you.
Who am I speaking with here?
This is Sunny Grant.
Sunny Grant, all right. I see you in the chat.
Yes. But the sound is a little different, so I had to get on my regular phone, landline here.
Right, you need to be on your regular phone when you call in, and then turn down the audio of the YouTube show.
Yeah, there's a delay difference, so
Like about it's not too long though. It's only like 2 or 3 seconds.
I'm not sure what you want us to talk about, but I have 3 different things. They're very different, but not sure which one you'd want to hear about.
Well, people are going to call in and discuss the, a unusual event that happened to them, that they witnessed themselves, and it's always been something that's bothered them.
Oh, yeah.
Like a
the one
personal
that bothered me.
Like the name is Personal Paranormal Experiences. So it's like a paranormal experience that happened to you that you can't explain that's interesting.
Okay.
All right.
So should I just go ahead and talk about it right now, or do you have any questions? Or?
No, go ahead.
It happened when I was very, very young. I think I was about 4. And I went into my bedroom, and I had a large window that pretty much went from floor to ceiling, and it faced to the west. I remember that because the sun used to set there every night. And I swear I saw something at the window that was staring at me. And I know this sounds really weird, but when I was so young, the only way I could describe it was to say it looked like a TV aerial, like those old aerials that used to be on tops of houses a long time ago before the internet and everything. And it was staring at me. And I just started screaming. And my dad was in the shower. My mom was downstairs cooking dinner. And I remember just standing there paralyzed, and I couldn't move. And I was just terrified. I started screaming. I ran downstairs screaming to my mom. The TV antennas at the window, the TV antenna. I know this sounds ridiculous, but this is what happened. The TV antennas at the window, and I was hysterical. Okay. My dad heard me. He gets out of the shower, comes downstairs. They couldn't calm me down. It probably took like 20 minutes for them to calm me down. They finally, after a long time, convinced me that I had just seen something, a branch that was flying by the window, and they couldn't explain what it was. So my dad finally convinced me that it was basically nothing, but I insisted that that's what I had seen, and it was looking at me. It was like staring right into my eyes. So a couple months went by, and we were having a picnic in the backyard with all the neighbors, and I'd kind of forgotten about it by that time. And I heard my dad talking to the neighbor guy next door, and he pointed up to our TV antenna, and he said to this guy, he goes, "Do you think there's any way that antenna could bend down, like in a wind or whatever, and go in front of that window?" And the neighbor guy said no, because it was rigid and it was strapped against the chimney. And he said no. And I knew right then that my father believed that I had seen something. And I was always afraid after that. I don't know what it was. I can remember it to this day.
Yeah, describe it.
Very strange.
Maybe describe it really clearly.
It looked like it was metal, and it had a piece in the middle, and it had perpendicular pieces going off of it, and then other pieces connected to it. But there was something in the center. It wasn't like eyes, but there was something in the center that was staring at me, and it just terrorized me. But I can still, even to this day, I can vividly remember it. So that's one thing.
That's crazy.
I have 2 more things, but they're totally unrelated. One time I was sitting in a friend's house, and this is in the Black Hills in South Dakota, on a ranch. We were having Thanksgiving dinner. She lived in this really old house with her husband and her new baby. And I was just sitting there in the dining room, kind of helping clean up and gather some stuff up after dinner. I was by myself. I looked at the stairs. There were stairs that came in the dining room along the wall from the upstairs. It was a really old house. And I saw this, it was like a man. It was kind of all in white, kind of like the fog that you're showing on your show right now. And he just kind of floated down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs kind of dissipated and went away. So I went over to my friend. She was in the living room, and I said, excuse me, but I think I just saw a ghost come down your stairs. And she's like, oh my God, tell my husband, come over here, tell my husband. I see him all the time, and he tells me I'm crazy. You have to tell him that you saw this. So I told him that I saw it. But, I mean, it didn't really scare me or anything. It was just something strange that happened to me.
I think that would have scared me more than an antenna with
TV
eyeball.
antenna at the window.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, the ghost wasn't looking at me, but this TV antenna was staring at me like it was going to do something, and that's what scared me. It's like making eye contact with me.
Yeah, and it's weird because it couldn't really be there. It shouldn't have been there where it was. Right?
No, there was something there at the window. To this day, I know what I saw.
Almost like a big walking stick, right? You know, that little bug? A walking stick?
Yeah, something like that. Well, yeah, that's a good description, kind of. And then the other thing I've had a lot of weird stuff happen, but okay. It was August 13th. I'll never forget the day, and it was a Friday. And I was traveling. I was in Wyoming. I was about 30 or 40 miles southeast of Lander on this 2-lane blacktop highway. It was getting to be sunset, and maybe it was about 5 or 6 in the evening. And I saw this sign. It was kind of an old broken down wooden sign on the side of the road, and there was an arrow pointing to the left, which would have been to kind of like to the southwest. And it said Atlantic City, 39 miles or something like that. I think it was 39 miles. And I thought, oh my God, Atlantic City, Wyoming. I didn't realize there was Atlantic City, Wyoming. I've heard of Atlantic City, New Jersey. I want to go there. And all of a sudden I just turned off onto this dirt road, started driving down the dirt road, and I was traveling with a friend. And my friend's like, where are you going? You know, we have to make it to Lander by tonight. And I said, well, did you see that sign? I just want to go on this side road and see what Atlantic City, Wyoming looks like. No, you have to turn back. We can't go off on, it's getting dark. No, it's just let's just go down here a little ways. So we went down. My friend's getting really upset the farther I drove. And the dirt road kind of turned into just this like 2-lane, almost a wagon trail, just with 2 little tire tracks in it.
So it was cement, and then it turned into a dirt road?
No, when I turned off, it was a dirt road, but it was hard dirt, and it was like a driveway.
And then it had
the
ruts.
further I drove, it was just like a, like in a hay field when you just see 2 tracks, you know, that the truck goes out where you put up hay.
Okay.
So we got this really huge argument about, you've got to turn back. No, I don't want to. Yes, we have to turn back. No, I don't. And we're arguing. So I decided to, okay, I'll turn around. And I was driving this old pickup. It was a 3-speed on the column, and I wasn't too good at driving it. And I was trying to do a K-turn in this tiny little road that had big ruts on either side of it, and I kept stalling it out. My friend's yelling at me. So I just got really pissed off. I just put it in park, and I jumped out of the truck. I don't know. It was like I was like out of my mind. Jumped out of the truck and started running out into it was like high chaparral. There were bushes, and there was like, you know, dry ground. running. And I sat down, and I thought, oh my God, like, why am I getting so upset? Why are we having this huge argument? So I'm just kind of sitting there catching my breath, and I looked up, and the sun was setting. It was beautiful. It was orange. There were about 7 different mountain ranges you could see in different shades of blue going into black. I was kind of admiring the sunset and catching my breath, and I looked up, and there were a lot of different land formations, and one of them was a plateau, which had a big flat top on it. And I looked, and I saw up on top of the plateau, in front of the orange sunset, I saw these 2 things on top. These 2, like, I thought they were people. And so I thought, oh my God, what are tourists doing out here? I couldn't figure out why there were people up on this plateau. And then I looked, and they were kind of jumping around, bouncing around on top of the plateau. One was trying to push the other one off the top. It was like they were play fighting, like for King of the Mountain or something. One of them would go off the side, and he would cling to the side of the plateau and spring back up and bounce on top of it. And when he bounced on top of the plateau, every time his feet would hit the ground, all this hair would like shimmer off of his body, and you could see it silhouetted against the orange the sky. So I'm sitting there, and their faces were black skin, and they were so big I could see the palms of their hands, and they were black, they were skin, but the rest of them was hair. And I was just sitting there looking, and I was thinking, wow, this is really cool. And I was just watching them. They were both like play fighting, like they were practicing their moves or something. I didn't get the impression that they were trying to hurt each other. They were sparring, sort of. But when they would push one of them off to the side and he would cling to the plateau, he would just spring up. I've never seen anything move like that before. So I got up. I watched it for maybe about 3-4 minutes. I got up and I went back to the pickup, which was on the dirt road. And I said to my friend, I said, wow, I said, did you see those things over there? My friend said, yeah, let's get the hell out of here. And all I wanted to do was sit there and watch them, and they wanted to get out. So I got in the pickup, and then we left. And went
so you think they were like Bigfoot or something?
I swear that's exactly what they were. And not only one, but 2 of them, they never looked at me. I don't think they knew. Well, they probably knew I was there, but they just ignored me. But I will never forget that. So those are my 3 things.
Wow.
Kind of weird.
That's crazy. So it looked like what describe what they look like again, like the color and that kind of thing.
They were really tall. I would say, like when we got to Lander, we didn't talk the whole way there because we had seen these things. We were speechless. We got there, went to this little cafe and had some kind of dinner or coffee. We started talking about it a little bit, and we figured they were probably, I don't know, 10 feet tall, very, very, very tall.
Wow.
Very muscular. But they were so big I could see individual fingers on their hands. And like I said, the palms were skin. The palms were shiny, and their faces were shiny. The faces had like skin, no hair. The heads kind of went up a little bit to a point, and they were covered with fur because when they were sparring and jumping on top of this plateau, the hair would like, go up off their bodies. You could see it, and it would just shimmer against this orange sky. And because they were silhouetted against orange, it was really easy to see them.
Wow.
Very dark, between brown and blackish color. But really, really interesting, and I wish I had stayed there. Years later, I went back to that spot. I tried to go back and find it, because this was years later. And the sign was still there. It said Atlantic City, like 32 miles or 33 or so, something in the 30s, pointing to the southwest off of the high blacktop, 2-lane blacktop that goes into Lander, Wyoming. You could look it up on Google Maps. And I went back on that dirt road. I turned left, but so many years had gone by, it looked like that had become like a four-wheeler's paradise, and there were all these like four-wheeler type roads going around and everything in the hills back in there, and I couldn't figure out which road to stay on, and I couldn't find the exact lay of the land.
Do you know the address of
that I had seen?
Do you know where that?
What's that?
Do you know how to find that plateau on Google Earth?
I don't know what it was called. I know it was in the Antelope Hills mountain range because I looked it up on a map.
That's like in Oregon,
maps
right?
were very crude back then.
Isn't that Oregon?
It was. No, this is Wyoming.
Oh, we have Antelope, Oregon too.
Yeah, I know. I've been to the Antelope Hills in Oregon.
Okay.
They're in the south, aren't they? In the southeast corner of Oregon, by all those craters. There's a lot of lava around there and everything.
I think it's like southeast, I would think.
Southeast, yeah.
Yeah.
In Oregon.
Right.
This is in Wyoming. If you go on the two-lane blacktop coming from Muddy Gap, you'll see a little town called Muddy Gap. Going to Lander, which is northwest of Muddy Gap, maybe 50 miles. It's on that two-lane blacktop highway. There's a sign that says Atlantic. You can find Atlantic City, Wyoming on the map now because I think it's become like a tourist trap type place.
It's weird. I mean, I'm on this place that almost looks like the Earth is split. This big rift in the on the ground.
Yeah, I'll never forget those two things. I tried to tell my dad about it one time. I really didn't tell anybody about it, but I was so amazed by it. I wasn't afraid at all. I was like amazed, like, look what I get to see. I want to just stay here and watch this. And my friend's like, no, we're leaving. We're getting the hell out of here. And I wasn't scared at all. But all my dad said to me was, yeah, what were you smoking? So nobody would ever believe me, so I just never talked about it anymore. Yeah. But since you have the show, I thought, well, maybe I'll call in.
Well, wow, those are cool stories. I think maybe we should think of doing something. Are you in the Facebook group, the Personal Paranormal Facebook group?
I think so. Yeah, I did. I subscribed.
Well, maybe you could create a thread on I think the Bigfoot. Well, the first story was really interesting too. I mean, they're all interesting. But I would say I haven't done a Bigfoot one yet. So maybe we could. It'd be hard to make a Bigfoot though. That's the only problem. But it would be cool if we could figure out where that was on Google Earth.
I want to go back there to that little dirt road, and I want to try to go down there and find that plateau. And I had always felt that if they did live around that area, they would live in those hills, because back then there was nothing back there. I mean, it was absolutely, it was deserted. There were no oil wells back then or anything like that.
So what we could do is maybe if you have pictures of maybe yourself back in that time frame, and then if you can, and then maybe we can do Google Earth. Like we can get on and we can try to find the spot on Google Earth.
Okay. When I turned off, I probably drove, let's see, we were getting in this really big argument, so maybe I drove 5 miles.
Yeah, I don't have any way to look it up, right? I mean, the thing is, it would be like, we'd have to kind of work on it together offline. It would take too long right now to go try to find it.
No, I don't want to take up your time, because everybody else, I'm sure, has stories to tell, but yeah, sure, I can do that, or how do you want me to get in touch with you? Just email or something?
Yeah, well, you can do the grayhuze2@gmail.com, or create a thread in that Personal Paranormal group about that story.
Oh,
and then we can kind of,
I'll do that.
You can like load things up, and you might even be able to find it on a map yourself first, randomly, like on Google Maps, and then I could say, oh yeah, there it is, and then I can see the location, and
Okay.
That might be pretty. I think that'd be cool for people to see that. If you can find the actual plateau.
Yeah, it would be interesting. It's just that nobody ever believes me, because most people just see one and they see them like in the bushes and they don't get a very good view. I saw 2. They were actually sparring with each other, but the moves I saw them make, it was something out of like, I don't know, like Don Juan, if you ever read any of his books. I mean, it was like there were trails coming off of them, and I've never seen any creatures move like that before. It was they were really powerful, whatever they were. I don't know.
Sounds pretty cool. I mean, it's
weird.
It
was, and I should have stayed, but who knows? Maybe something bad would have happened to me. I don't know. But I wasn't afraid at all. I was like, I felt like amazed that I was able to see this because, you know, people don't get to see stuff like that every day.
No.
But, it was pretty interesting.
All right.
So, all right. Well, I will email you the info, and thank you for listening, and everybody else, thanks for listening, and I hope people call in.
Well, thank you for calling in. That was very, very interesting. You were the first caller ever on
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks a lot.
Have a good night. Thanks for your show. I love it. It's really
cool.
good.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
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 Well, there you go. And here is the number again for the next caller. That was really interesting, wasn't it? Some pretty cool stories right there. You had a Bigfoot, an antenna, like creature, kind of like a walking stick, and I can't remember the other one now. No, the ghost coming down a stairway, I think. That she wasn't scared of at all, where I'd be freaked out. Sonny Grant, the first caller on personal paranormal experiences. Thank you for the call. Why, you guys didn't like my hoodie? What's the deal with that? I just realized that my desktop camera isn't working, nor the blue camera. Yeah, I think my time frame for getting my new computer is moving up quickly. All right. It's, this thing seems to almost be like, you know, like when a car starts having problems and it just starts going down the hill, down the hill, down the hill. Yeah, this channel, I don't even think has 1,000 people on it yet. So I'm going to have to keep doing it for a little bit. Yes, no super chats on this one. It is linked to the other one, but you don't inherit the subscribers. Well, who's calling in next? That's 100 more than yesterday. Hey!
Fuck you, bitch.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, man? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Oh, man, another... I don't know how to stop it. So we already got another prank caller on this one. Yeah, creepy. It's like they have nothing better to do, some of these people. I wonder if it's that same guy from before. Remember that guy? All right. Any normal people going to call in? Yeah, it just sounds like he was muffling it up a little bit. Yeah, so what that shows is, see how people saw things in their life, but other people, when they hear them tell the story, don't believe it. You know, they kind of go, yeah, geez, I don't know, man, that's a little... But you probably have a story similar to that. Like, oh, wow, I saw something, but nobody believes you either. And those are the stories that I want to hear about. Well, earlier it looked like there was 5 or 6 people that were going to call in, but now they're not calling in. The number's on the screen, though.
Hello? Hi. Hi. Hello?
Jesus. Yeah, I guess there's really no way to keep, you know, idiots. It'd be cool if there was like a way to have a person that could verify, then transfer it to me. But apparently that doesn't happen on here. Yeah, but there was a whole bunch of you that were going to call in, right? So what happened? Was it that you didn't like? I mean, did it seem like it was like made you too nervous or something? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going? This is great.
Good. How are you?
I was just hoping this was a normal call. Well, there's two people on here. Who's the 913? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Who's the 604 number?
That's me, Barvita.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, so you've both called in. So you can both stay on the line and then.
I'll go.
No, both stay on the line and then just tell your stories one after each other, okay?
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. But you got to turn down the audio from the video in the background.
Doing it now.
And who's 863? Now all of a sudden there's three people.
Well,
Me.
Okay, well everybody just wait in order then tell your story. Or put your phones on mute while the other person's telling the story. How about that?
Oh, okay.
Wow, that was amazing. You guys all called in at the same time. All right, so how about 913, you go first. Hello?
Okay, well, this is
Yeah.
Kit Kat. Are you
Kit
there?
Kat.
I
Kit
had
Kat
myself
bar.
on mute.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, so I'm not that great on telling stories, and I always get nervous when I talk to you.
I think everybody likes the way you talk on the show. All right.
I always get so nervous. Okay, so this one's kind of weird. I always kind of thought it was like sleep paralysis, but there's a twist at the end, kind of like in Night Shyamalan. So I was at a friend's house, and I was like 19 at the time, and I was still living at home. And my allergies were acting up, so I took some Benadryl, and I was like, the night was winding down, and I was like, I'm going to go home, and I'm just going to go to bed. And so I come home, and the house is quiet and dark, and my dad's asleep, and it was about like 1 a.m, and I lay down to go to sleep, and all of a sudden I felt this presence in my room, like I wasn't alone. And I'm laying in my bed, and the shadows in my room started to move. It was almost like they were moving in wave formation, and they were dancing around the room. It was very scary. I was terrified. I felt like there was an evil presence in my bedroom, and I was laying there, and I was so scared. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk, and I wanted to scream for my dad, but I opened up my mouth, and like nothing would come out. And I'm laying there, and I have tears streaming down my face because I'm terrified. I can't move. I can't scream. It's just, there's nothing I can do, and there's these shadows in my room. And so the next thing I knew to do was to pray. So I started praying to God and asking God to watch over me, and I just laid there, and I knew in my heart of hearts that I wasn't going to wake up, that this was it. There was something bad happening, and I don't understand what it is. But so I'm laying there, I'm crying, I'm praying, and I thought I was falling asleep, and I see this white light, and this peace came over me, and it felt comfortable and warm, and I just accepted my fate that I was going to die. And so the next morning when I woke up, I was surprised that I was awake. Truly surprised that I woke up from this experience. And so I started, looking up things like, what was this? Or, demon encounters, evil spirits. And I came across sleep paralysis. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I had. And so I forgot about it. And then a couple of years later, I'm talking to my dad, and we're telling stories and stuff, and I finally told him about this incident that happened, and he says to me, and this like threw me for a loop. He said, "Those were demons in your room, Rachel. I dreamt about that. It really did happen."
Oh, Jesus.
I fell out. Oh, and that's my real name is Rachel.
Now that it's out there, right? Now that it's out there.
Now that it's out there.
Darn it.
But, yeah.
Oh, God.
I've been Kit Kat. I'm still Kit Kat, but yes, that's my real name. But yeah, so that's my terrifying story. I have another one, but I don't want to take up all the time because you have 2 other callers, so I can jump off the phone. So I don't know. It was very scary.
Well, it sounds pretty scary. You kind of had 2 of them. You have the shadow people and sleep paralysis.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I was afraid to fall asleep for like weeks after that because I was afraid it was going to happen again.
Yeah. Well, wow. Thanks, Kit Kat, and a name starting with an R that I won't say. Anyways, thanks for calling in.
Well, thank you. Thanks for everybody telling your stories. I really like this.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so 604, you're on the air
Hi,
now.
Greg.
Hey.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm Barvita, a.k.a. Debbie.
Oh, cool.
I'm calling from Canada, and I've been watching your other channel, which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of things, I don't know that they were necessarily scary, like I didn't see ghosts or anything. These are things kind of like the same story you had with your brother and the balloon. First episodes were after my mother died, which is going on 17 years. And I inherited her house, which I felt really comfortable with because I spent a lot of time taking care of her before she passed. And we had a lot of neat conversations there. After initial shock and you know, the service and everything, and I became alone in the house because I was one of 7 siblings, so it was always people around. I guess I got into a grief mode where, you know, I really wanted her to be there, but she wasn't. And I remember calling out her name and looking out the window, and she passed the end of January, so it was still winter month. And she had avid gardener, and she planted all these flowers, right? And she had a whole row, this big long row of forget-me-not. And when I looked out the window, they were all in bloom. This whole row, it was like all these white flowers. I could see them. And I felt immediately that she was with me. She was responding to the ache I had in my heart, right? And I kind of shook it off. But an hour or so later, when I looked out the window, they were green plants. These plants were not in bloom. So I'm like, okay, that was like pretty weird. I'm shaking because I haven't shared this with a lot of people. And come springtime, when they did bloom, they were purple. So to see the white row of flowers was, to me, a definite message from my mom. Another time, months before she died, like anytime I got in the car with her, she was playing Whitney Houston's song, I Will Always Love You. So I decided another night I'm going to do a grief thing, and I'm really going to get into it, whatever, I don't know. And on top of the TV, I had this like little boombox thing of hers, and it played DVDs, so I'm putting in Whitney Houston, and I want to listen to I Will Always Love You. And I smoked, so I had like an ashtray on the TV, and this was a big TV that sat on the floor, and it would rotate. You could turn it, right? And on the top of the TV was like a 1-inch lip. So I'm going to punch this song, and as soon as the song starts, this ashtray goes flying off the TV, like up and over. And I'm like, okay, did I just imagine this, right? So I go back and I do, I'm starting this thing again, and the ashtray flew off again. So I went like, okay, she doesn't want me to grieve. She doesn't want me to do this. This isn't the whole idea of all the talks we had and me inheriting the house and whatnot. It's not what it was for. But it's the first time I experienced anything like that at such a depth of shaking me, like waking me up to something. I don't know if paranormal, but the fact that they can communicate somehow from the other side, like I'm not crazy, right?
Well, I mean, but that is paranormal, right?
So,
well, maybe it's normal. Maybe it's,
maybe it's normal. So
you know.
the thing was, like, I told a younger brother about this, and he's like, oh, wow, okay, Deb, like, you know, what's going on with you? Like, that's crap. Like, that shit doesn't exist. And I didn't question myself because I clearly saw these things and witnessed them and felt immediately what they were. And he's a heavy drinker, so he lives like hours away from me. And I guess he was going to do this one night too. He puts a stereo up and he's going to put a disc in there and, you know, do the grief thing. I don't know. But his stereo malfunctioned. There was something wrong with the stereo. So he took it in on his way to work the next day to a shop for repair. And when he went in after work to pick it up, the guy said there's nothing wrong with the stereo. He took it home and it worked fine, right? So these things, I believe. My brother and I'm just another incident. So that's because I related with what you said about your brother, because it was my brother's birthday. My brother and I were we fought cancer at the same time, the fall of 2013. He had colon cancer, I had breast cancer. So we were each other's really strong support system. We could really relate. You know, you have to go through it to know it, I guess. And but he passed away March of 2015. I think he was alone in his apartment, they figure, over a week before police were called in and they found him. Another brother and I, we went and cleaned the apartment and did all this stuff for Mike, and the coroner said his death date was around the 5th of March, was a week before his birthday. And he liked to play acoustic guitar and he loved the Beatles, and he sent me many years ago a tape of him playing Blackbird by the Beatles, right? So I'm like, okay. So a week later comes his birthday, and like you, I'm thinking strongly about my brother. I'm missing him dearly, right? And was still battling my battle. And I came down. I'm on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, so I went down, and I'm going to go out and walk my dog. And just outside the foyer door is this big black crow, and I mean right up against the door. And when I opened the door, it didn't immediately fly off. So I was kind of like, that's bizarre. And it made me think of Mike. And like the balloon, it was like Mike acknowledging my feelings on his birthday. And there's lots of other things like that have happened. But the impact of my brother and that Blackbird, you know, that was it. Like,
yeah, it's weird because, you know, they're weird stories anyways. But if it doesn't happen to yourself, then you have a hard time. You know, I think it's when people tell the stories, people start going, yeah, that's interesting. Because like my balloon story, if I didn't tell anybody, nobody would, you know, they would know about it first of all. But it really happened. Like I was there, you know. So the thing is you were there in your stories, and it happens.
And when you share. Yeah. And then people that have had their own experiences with it, like when I heard that, when I watched that video, I had no doubt. You know, I didn't go, oh, bull, you know, because once you've had your own experiences with things, it just acknowledges that it's real, right? Like,
yeah, it's sort of, it's a little bit like I think the more people talk about them, the more comfortable people are telling. They don't want to seem like they're weird or something, you know. So it's sort of like the UFO phenomenon, where people don't want to be called a crackpot, so they won't come forward with a story of something they saw, you know.
Exactly. So. Like, as a teenager living on the Queen Charlotte Islands, a bunch of us, we saw this orange orb. Like it wasn't the sun; it was like sitting on the ocean. It was like you could almost swim out to it. And we were so freaked out, we went and got our science teacher, woke him up, and he came out to look at it. And to this day, I mean, we all figured UFO, But even he said it wasn't the sun. It was just kind of like, whoa, what is this thing, right? So, yeah, I believe in that too.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, no, thanks for this, and I guess you have someone else waiting too. So
there is actually that person still online, holding.
Good.
So
good,
right.
Patient person.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Well, thank you for calling. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See that? Excellent stories right there. All right. 863. You're up. You still there?
Okay, that's me.
All right, good. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry for the ferocious barking earlier. That was my dog, Blue.
Oh, you have a dog, Blue, too?
Yeah,
Nice.
he's a little bit bigger than yours, but...
Well, that's not hard to do.
He's my Blue. Yeah, that's true. He's so cute, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, while I was on hold, I was listening, and my story is a lot like Kit Kat's, really. My gosh, I must have been probably 12, 13, early teens. And my dad, he's electrical engineer. He used to have to go away on trips sometimes, not very often. And I would love sleeping with my mom in the bed up there in the king-size bed. We had a 2-story house, and I fell asleep in the bed with her up there and woke up, and the only thing I remember is feeling as if something was coming up the stairs, and I could feel it, and I was kind of awake, and I could tell it was not good. It's just this like feeling of dread coming into the room and then surrounding the bed, but I couldn't actually see anything at the foot of the bed. I'm like, I knew something was surrounding the bed, but I didn't know what because I couldn't see it. All of a sudden, the bed starts shaking violently, and, all of a sudden I start hovering up over the bed, floating out right down the hall, all the way down the stairs. And then we stop at these pictures that we had at my house, and we used to always make fun of them. It was Pinky and Blue Boy. I don't know if you know those pictures. But
I think so.
I see them in a lot of houses. They're just, old 80s pictures. Anyway, it would stop there, and then you would feel peaceful, and for a whole minute you felt this total peace, and then you would wake up. I didn't remember anything after that. So I'm really a skeptic. I've had other things happen to me, and my brothers and sisters have, and I'm always like, okay, there's always an explanation for that. So fast forward about 30 years later, we are, well, not 30, maybe 25. We're all at, every year we go down to the beach as a family, my brothers and sisters, my dad, my mom, nieces and nephews, and we're all, we had dinner that night. We're all sitting out there talking, and all the kids are with us, and, they always like telling ghost stories, They're 9, 10, 12, 14. So we're all around, we're laughing and telling ghost stories, and my dad's there, and he's a total skeptic. I mean, he's really logical. Everything has an explanation, straight down the middle. So as everybody's telling these stories, I thought, I'm going to tell that story. Maybe it'll scare them. So I start telling my story, of years ago. And as I was telling it, I'm looking over at my dad, and he has this really funny look on his face. And I'm thinking, should I not be telling this story? Is it scaring the kids? What's up? Well, I finished, telling the story, and he goes, are you kidding me? He goes, that's the same thing that used to happen to me in that room upstairs. And everybody looked at us, but I kind of think it's like a sleep paralysis thing, but I said to him, I said, Dad, did you feel this impending doom coming up the stairs? He's like, it was an impending doom. He goes, you couldn't see who was shaking the bed, and it was exactly like mine. It was just crazy.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, I've had other things happen to me over the years, but that one's really was that sleep paralysis or something else? because it's weird that he has the same.
It sounds like
exact
something else. I don't think that people. I don't think beds get shaken with sleep paralysis.
Right. I mean, you know, one of my sisters has had sleep paralysis for years, and it's like, you know, and I think I've had a sleep paralysis episode where, you know, you try to say something, you can't, you know, I've had that happen to me, but this was just totally different. But yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, especially as we're telling it and all the kids are around. And then when he told that, you know, then they're all like, oh, they were getting scared. But yeah, for him to say that, because he's really, like I said, he's more skeptical than I am. But I'm skeptical to a point. You know, I have an open mind about it, but I guess I'm still skeptical.
Yeah, you're not really. It's so weird that you're not sure if you really saw what you saw, but then all of a sudden your dad's saying that he saw the same thing.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Then what do you do with that?
You know, all those years I kind of, you know, because 10 or 15 years when I got to be an adult, I read about sleep paralysis, and, you know, I thought it was only a dream, but it was just so vivid. I mean, I don't really even think that I was actually asleep yet when it happened. You know, it happened that quick.
I was anally probed by an alien.
Oh, look at this. I think
in the
somebody just
middle
called
of the
in.
night, I was taken out of my bed by...
Yeah. Okay, good. So we got the prank caller called in.
Great.
Isn't that awesome?
We always need more of those.
Yeah. Well, I got rid of that person. It's kind of
well,
sucks.
yeah. I guess I'll Yeah. I thought that's the only one that I'm not so skeptical about. It's pretty weird.
Yeah. Well, I think it was.
But yeah, I thought I'd just tell my little story. It was a lot like Kit Kat.
Well, there you go. See, now there's more than one, and we also had in my personal paranormal, Paul Yoler. He had a whole thing on shadow people. That's what the documentary was about. So, like.
In shadow people, he means like people that come around your bed. Shadow people.
Well, they're like on the wall. They were walking. If you watch, it's one of my 6 videos that I have on the channel. So you could check that out.
Oh, that would have been really scary.
I even made an animation.
See them.
Well, what was cool is he had photos of because he still lives there, right? So he took photos of inside the home, and then he described in detail where the shadows were. So I put them using my software. I used a program where I recorded a shadow and then put them into the scene so it looked the way he described it. I'm sure it wasn't exact or anything, but at least gave you a visual of it. So,
was it on Facebook or on?
It's on YouTube. It's on this. YouTube. It's on this channel right here. Personal Paranormal Experiences.
I'll have to go look at it.
Yeah, there's only 6 videos.
I'm always on the true crime one.
Yeah, me too. This is, but I always wanted to do something like this, so I want to try to get it at least moving along. I've neglected it.
Yeah, a lot of people have stories.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's like, whoa.
It is interesting. It is.
Yeah. So.
Well, okay. I'll let somebody else tell their story. And
all right. Well, thank you for calling in.
You have a good night.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay.
See you later. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, another good call. Man, those are all interesting. It's wild. Other than the troll idiots who have nothing better to do, those are really interesting. So there's the number on the screen again. It works for most people. I don't know why it doesn't work for... Are you out of the country or something? Maybe you need to dial long distance. I don't know. Yes. So you hear about the sleep paralysis a lot from people. And apparently shadow people are more common too. In what people are saying that they're seeing, right? All right, so who's calling in now? What happens when you try calling that number, Claudine? Well, Wendy, call in. Tell your story. Yeah, Art Bell used to talk about it a lot. Thanks, Sonny. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Hello.
Hi, Gray. It's Dara.
Oh, God, I was just about ready to hit this.
No, I'm not the troll.
Ah, jeez.
How are you, Gray? Great show. A lot
bad.
of interesting stories.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know. So I have one story, but this happened long time ago, and until this day, if my dad hadn't told me this story, I would be skeptical. But my dad been all over the world since he was like 14. He worked on a ship where they traveled all over the world. So he's been, he spoke 7 languages, and I know he wouldn't make up the story because he wasn't that type of person. He reminded me a lot of him. He was like very straightforward, like, can't be fake, can't lie, like. So was he but I don't know.
Was he mean? Was he so mean?
Very mean.
Okay. Anyways, all right.
So mean.
That's right.
Okay, so when I believe I was around 14. The bedroom that, where we were in Canada was for me and my sister. So my bed was close to the window and her bed was the opposite side. That night, I remember I was sleeping and then I felt something was trying to open the window, and I opened my eyes and I'm looking and there's nothing, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just imagining, and then I try to fall asleep again, and then all of a sudden I feel something is crawling on me, like there's just something on me, and I'm looking at myself and I'm hitting myself. I'm like, what's going on, what's on me? And then I'm looking, there's nothing, and then I'm like, okay, this is weird, because I got scared, and then I jump out of the bed. And then I look, everybody's sleeping in the house. I didn't want to wake up anybody. Then I go back to sleep, and the same thing happened. It's like, I swear, it's like just something crawling on top of my body. But anyways, so I never told anybody. Left, when I went to university, left the house, lived in Ottawa, came back. So when I came back, I was in my 20s, and my mom was sitting at home and crying, and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, we need to move out of this house. And my dad, he's like, why? And she's like, I keep seeing this creature in my sleep. He's on top of the roof, just looking at me and laughing at me. And she said, I just, I feel something bad in this house. This house is no good. So my dad is like, describe him to me. And at the same time, he's like, he goes, and that was funny. And he's like, let's both of us describe him. And they did. And it was the same creature. I swear to God, Greg, the same, like the way they described him, the same thing. They said the same thing. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, whoa. So this is the story my dad told me. He was in Greece. And he was in the boat, and they got to the island, and they were on the island, on the beach, like in the shore, I guess it's called, my accent. But anyways, and then all of a sudden he looks behind him and he sees this creature that was short with the long ears and just like looking at him. And my dad looked at him, and then he tried to grab him, and then he grabbed him. And then all of a sudden the creature is like, bad luck, bad luck. And then my dad takes a knife and he tries, because how they have a knife and they put the rope when they go on shore anyways, and then he disappeared. So it was the same creature that my dad, they caught, that my mom was seeing in the house. And when he said bad luck, what we made out of it is, which is true, since we lived in that house, and we did for 10 years, none of us, like the siblings, the 3, it was me, my brother, and my sister, we all had really bad luck throughout those 10 years that we were in that house. Once my mom decided to sell it and move out, everything changed for all of us. I swear to God, like everybody's life turned around to the better. So yeah, that's my story. I mean, I don't know what it is that my dad and my mom saw, but I mean, the way he described him, it was the exact same person. Creepy, right? Or you don't believe it, Gray? So mean.
What did the creature look like? Sorry, my mic was off. I didn't want to make sound
That's
over
okay.
it. What did it look like?
The way they described him, my mom described him the same way as my dad. Short, like long ears. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear
me? Yeah. He short with like long ears, like looks like, I don't know if you've ever seen those movies, like what, like those, I don't know how I can't describe them, but that's how they said, like short, long ears with those kind of creepy eyes. And my mom saw him in her dream always on the roof of the house in Canada. And she said every time she saw him in her dream, every time he came in her dream, he was in the same spot. And she showed us the same spot. And she's like, that's where I see him every time he comes to my dream.
I was going to think it sounded like a gremlin.
Dancing.
Like a gremlin or a... Like a gremlin, I was thinking. Or like a chupacabra.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I Googled it one time, like the images like of stuff like that in the movies that I've seen, and I saw the image. But that's, I mean, yeah, so, but she saw him like always just like looking at her and laughing, and he would just laugh at her. But when my dad saw him, like he said he was like something out of like, my dad couldn't believe it. Like my dad, like until he died, he was like, he never believed it, but because his friends were there and they saw, that's the only reason he believed what he caught.
Wow.
But yeah. Yeah.
See, isn't that weird though? I mean, like,
I'm telling you, if it wasn't my dad, I won't believe it, Ray.
What was that? Excuse me? See, there's weird how there's people that
What is it?
Well, there's people that call in and then they just start talking in the background.
Oh, okay.
No.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm gonna hang up anyways.
Well, no, I put them on mute, but then they just hang up because they're on mute. Like, I'm not sure. See, I just put people on mute. I just realized that button exists, so while the other person's talking, no sound from them can come through. It's also easy to just to shut off a troll in like 2 seconds. So, but man, that's crazy. you haven't told me that one before.
No, I never told anybody, to be honest, because I don't know. Like I'm telling you, if it wasn't my dad, I wouldn't believe it. But I know how my dad was, and the way my mom was like crying and like, please, let's sell this house. I need to get out of here. Something exists in this house that's bad luck. That I do believe it, but I never shared it with anybody, to be honest. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, tell everybody. Hey, listen, everybody, subscribe here if you haven't subscribed yet, because I got to try to get this to count.
Subscribe and hit the bell.
That's right. And
smash that like button.
Yes. Okay, so when you call in...
All right, great. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. All right. Hey, thanks for calling in, Daro.
All right.
You saved the day. All right. See you later. All right, bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, so when you call in, I'm going to put you on mute, right? And then I'll take you off of mute, like 203. I think you're up next. There you go. You ready? 203? You there? Oh, I'll just put you back on mute again. Well, how about 574? You ready?
That's me, Gray.
And who's that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Picture Renee.
Picture Renee. You guys see her in the true crime chat all the time. Wow.
I am. I've been listening to you for a long time now and just kind of started to get more involved in typing. Of course, I've always wanted to be able to support your channel, too, because I love it so much.
Well, thank you.
But I did on your Facebook page write my story out in the very beginning when you put your Facebook page together for the paranormal.
Oh.
I wrote my story out, and you had said, do you want me to put this into video? And at that time, the story I'm about to tell you, it was a little too fresh for me to even think about, it going into video.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you've started this channel, I just wanted to call in and kind of go through the story because it's so personal and it means so much to me. And through the years, I've heard other people have experiences. There's been people in my family that's had some experiences that were paranormal. And I think probably myself at times and just kind of dismissed them. But this one happened back in April of this last year. I was married for 31 years. We have 2 children, and we had 4 grandchildren. And my husband was very healthy, was just a normal, regular guy working as a technician in an engineering group down in Bremen, Indiana. He was a runner, so every day that he would come home from work, he would run 5 miles a day. He would work out at the gym. He was a weightlifter. Just a regular guy that everybody loved, smiled a lot, was quiet, loved his family. And his whole life surrounded his family, making everybody happy. And the grandkids, of course, adored him, and they called him Paw Paw. And our grandchildren ranged in age at that time 9 down to 4. There's 4 of them. The youngest being the 4-year-old, our granddaughter, who he adored. But prior to April of this last year, my husband got sick one week, and he was really sick, and he said, I think I better go to the doctor. I'm just that sick. And he went to the doctor, and within 2 weeks we found out that he was actually dying from 4th-stage cancer. His body was riddled with cancer, and he was just such a strong man, health-wise, always ate right, that there just was never really any symptoms. And at that time, they gave him 3 months to live, which was devastating and a shock to the family. But Bob, my husband, went on to live 3 more years. He battled the best he could. He wanted to have great moments with our grandchildren and his siblings, and, of course, just our small family that we're just a small family, and just love each other. And he was just amazing. And but the end, as I know most of us now have experienced some cancer somewhere in families, or we know somebody that has died from cancer. In the end, it was horrible. It was everything that you're told, the way that lives end with cancer. And he wanted to pass away here at home. And by that time, our life had become very small, kind of isolated, especially at the end of the
nigger. Ah, jeez. Okay.
It's okay.
Somebody just called me. Sorry.
It's okay. Of taking care of him. And 2 days before he passed away was the last I heard him talk, and there was a hospice nurse in. And they were not here all the time. That was not the wish that he had wanted. They would come in and they'd make sure that I was okay, but it was mainly my son and I caring for him. And we have also a disabled daughter who's an adult woman that lives in the house, but the last week of his life, she had gone to stay with an aunt. So it was my son, my daughter-in-law, the grandkids came one last time to say goodbye, and my sister and his siblings came to say goodbye. And the last he spoke, he said to a nurse, he said, "Glenda will have rest in 2 days." He said it'll be Tuesday, and it'll be 2 a.m. And she was just comforting him, and, because he was kind of like going in and out at that time. The next day, when my son stayed up that night, I got up, and he, of course, my husband had quit talking then. And it came Tuesday, and we started to watch the end of life come. And, it's kind of like machinery shutting down. It's all I could think of as I was caring for my husband all of these years, because he worked on huge machinery, taking them apart, putting them back together. I mean, he worked with the engineering group, and I just thought, as I sat there watching him, I just thought about all the machines as they would shut those machines down, which, those big manufacturing companies, they don't shut them down, they run all the time. And but what it was like to shut those down and work on them. And it got about 1:30, and, I'm sorry, let me back up. About 6 hours before 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning, my son said to me, Mom, you've got to go upstairs and you have to lay down. He said, you're gonna pass out. And so there was a mattress that my son had pulled out upstairs that he was sleeping on. And I laid down onto this mattress and I closed my eyes, and I know I wasn't asleep, but I could see Bob. And he was out in this field, and anybody that knew Bob loved his smile, just had this great smile, good-looking man, great smile. And I seen him out in this field, and he was beautiful, and he was waving at me, and he was smiling. And I couldn't sleep. I mean, I just immediately got up, and I went down to my son. I said, I can't lay down. It's just too much, the things that I see.
Fuck you. Shut the fuck up, motherfucker.
I don't know how to
That's okay. I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
Not worried.
Yeah.
And so I came back down, and we sat and we watched the end of life come, and Bob passed away at 2 a.m. My son called his wife at 2:04. She was at home sleeping, and their little girl, our granddaughter, her name is Lane. She was in the bed with her mom that night. She was 4 at that time. And I heard Chad. He said, Laura, Pop's died. He's gone now. He's at peace. And I could hear my son. He was in the other room, and he was crying. And then he came back in, and we just sat there waiting for other people from the funeral home to come. And Bob's dog, our dog, Winston, who was a 17-year-old Westie, who has now passed. He passed 4 months after Bob. He was sitting on the bed with Bob. And it got to the morning, and everything was done. Paperwork was done, and Bob was gone. And I fell asleep for a little bit. And my daughter-in-law called. It was about 10 a.m. and she said, can I come over? I need to come and sit with you. And I said, of course. And I'm sorry, my voice is shaky.
Oh, that's okay.
She came over, and she is a skeptic through and through. This is an educated girl, you know. She's got, I mean, she's just
I'm jerking off to this story.
It's okay, Gray.
Well, I know. I figured out how to fix this, so I gotta.
Okay.
I just gotta get. You know, I want you to be able to finish your. That's incredible, your story. But there's just so many idiots out there. You know.
Yeah.
I apologize for humanity that there's so many idiots when you're trying to tell your story, that you got people that have nothing better to do. You know.
Right. And she came over. And she's a skeptic through and through. She don't like any of this stuff. It freaks her out. It's like, don't talk about that stuff. That ain't real, you know. And she came over, and of course we were crying. We loved this man. He was only 64 years old. He impacted everybody's life. And she said, Mom, you're not going to believe what happened at 2:05. She said, after Chad hung up, she said, I went back into the bed, and Lane goes, our 4-year-old granddaughter said in her sleep, I love you too.
Oh, wow.
And
that's awesome.
She said, I didn't wake her up. She said, I didn't know what to do. She said, so I just laid beside her and kind of went in and out of sleep and wept through the night, you know, cried. And the next morning, Lane comes down the stairs, and my daughter-in-law says, Lane, who were you talking to last night? And she said, oh, it was Paw. He was in this field, and the sun was shining on him, and he was so beautiful, Mom. Wow. And he waved really big at me, and he was smiling, and I said, Paw, I love you. And he said, I'm all better now, Lane. Go tell Mama I'm all better. And when she was describing this,
that's the same field that you saw, right?
It is, and Laura did not know about that dream.
Wow.
Laura did not know about that
Can I
dream.
tell my story now?
Yeah.
That was a dream that Chad and I, you know, my son, I had just shared that with him. I mean, it was the same identical story. Now, there's been other things that have happened that are real personal to the family, but somebody said to me that I spoke to about this, they said to me, "Do you believe it was Bob?" And I said, "I don't know what to believe, but I believe when it comes to the heart will speak, and it'll speak to all of us." And I guess I just have to go on that. I'm not sure what that little 4-year-old and I shared between our pawpaw, you know, her pawpaw and my husband. And I don't know how we shared that dream. I can't explain it. But I always want to tell it. I always want to tell it for the hopes of people that might have to live like the way that we did those last 3 years. So that's my story I wanted to share with you, Gray.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's like, I mean,
Say that again?
Oh, sorry, Alexa thought I was just talking to it. But it's, I think, I see, that's what's weird. Sometimes it responds when I didn't say its name. But the thing is, it's crazy that you saw the exact same thing that your daughter saw. Or was it your daughter? Yeah, your daughter, right?
It's my granddaughter.
Your granddaughter, yeah. And she just,
yes.
That must have been crazy. I mean, I kind of was picturing how this would look in a movie, you know, like you have the exact same scene and it's just to both of you but separate, that you didn't communicate to each other about it.
Well, yeah, she was, I mean, she was 4 at the time, and Laura, my daughter-in-law, when my son called her to say Pops has died, I mean, he did not say, "Hey, Mom had this weird dream 6 hours ago," you know.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, he just said, you know, Pops has passed. And Laura came over because she doesn't believe, my daughter-in-law doesn't believe any of this kind of stuff, but she came because Lane, you know, this 4-year-old, had this dream, and she wanted to come and tell me what Lane had seen in her dream and what Pawpaw had, the message that was supposed to be given to me. And I mean, I'm sitting in my living room at the time, and I'm just shaking because it's the same identical dream, you know? It was the same thing. So.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, maybe we should try to work on this a little. I wonder if we could make like a short sort of something.
Well, I would love to, and I would pay you for it because I'd love it for my granddaughter. And
well, you wouldn't have to,
I guess that's why I called in. I do photography, and my daughter-in-law is a great photographer. I do product photography. My daughter-in-law does portrait. And we spent the last year of his life taking these amazing photos of him.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and I would love to have something to be able to, you know, kind of pass on, I guess.
Hey, Gray, really like this show. I just thought I'd...
I wonder how that happened. That's how the person called in.
I don't want to keep you. I'll get off. They seem to really want to chime in on this one. So.
Yeah, well, let's get together and do something with that, all right?
I would love that, Gray. Thank you for this.
Hey, Gray, why did you...
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Okay, all right, thanks. Bye, see ya. Jesus. All right, so how about 203? 203, are you still around?
Is it me, Gray?
Yeah, just a second. But that was a great story, thank you. I'm sorry, it's hard to...
That was a great story.
Yeah, so this is... Sorry if somebody's going to call in and talk over, because there's some really weird people out there, you know. So...
It's me, Claudia Neubauer. Are you hearing me, Gray?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just want to let you know that there might be...
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, okay, cool.
First time calling in.
Okay, I just figured out how to fix that problem. All right, good. Took me a little bit of time, but there you go. All right, so. Boom.
That's okay. No problem. You're worth it.
Okay, here we go. Thank you.
I have a story. I was raised in a house with my aunt, uncle, and mother, and my brothers. I lost my aunt in 92 from breast cancer, my uncle in 93 from a broken heart and congestive
I
heart
hope you
failure.
get breast cancer, bitch.
What the hell? God,
I already have it. I already had it.
God, I
and
thought
I'm
I
a
just figured out.
survivor.
Hold on. How did you do that?
My brother was a big hippie. I'm from Connecticut. My brother traveled all over the country hitchhiking, went to Mexico, but he ended up always building Indian teepees, and he lived in Bonners Ferry, Idaho. He also worked for the Forestry Service and did, priming to prevent them, and went into the forest fires all over California, Idaho, Montana, wherever, and Oregon. And he had a bleeding disorder called Factor 9, and he was flashing up in the woods of Oregon, and he was a foreman at that point, and he was up on the mountain and apparently got whacked with a giant weed that he was whacking, hit him in the orbit and gave him a brain bleed. And they took him to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and said that, and I got notified that from his ex-wife that he was bleeding, and I am a nurse and I live in Connecticut. I left my job for 2 weeks. I went to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to Kootenai Hospital. They wanted to put a tube feed on him, and being a nurse, I know that's not okay. But the bleed began to be so grave that they took out most of his brain, where he was a vegetable, having seizures. I went there. His whole body was atrophying from muscle tone. I stayed there with him, with his friends that lived around him, and he built a log cabin. And I finally went down there to Idaho, and his ex-wife showed me a cabin that he actually built with a dirt ground and horses on 60 acres of alfalfa land. And I was staying across a highway in like a motel, really. I had written hotel, but a motel. And I would run across the highway to go and visit him. And they wanted to put a tube feed on him, and I said, absolutely not. They called a lawyer on me. And I said, well, to the physician, the surgeon, the neurological surgeon, I said, well, then you live with the guilt. Well, they brought him back to Bonners Ferry, and he had a hometown doctor that he used to snowshoe with and hike the mountains with, and they put him in a nursing home. And I finally came home to my children and my husband that I left work for. They were only like 7 and 8 years old for 2 weeks. And while I was there, when I was in where I was staying, his favorite number was 111, apparently. And I heard 4 knocks on my door that night when he actually died. And I know it was him. I opened the door and there was just a fog. I still have signs from my brother constantly. I talked to him in my head all the time. I had signs from my mother. I had my backpack stolen from my car, and my husband works at Sikorsky Aircraft. And like 2 years later, somebody brought to the guard shack at Sikorsky Aircraft my license. And it was on my birthday, December 4th, and I knew my mother was talking to me. I still get signs. I can't tell you every single one, but I do believe, like you did, Gray, with your brother with the balloon, we get signs, and when we have a good heart and care about people, we get signs from our loved ones. Unfortunately, not many people do, but I thought I would want to share that with you. And I really love your channel, and I'm sorry I missed what you put on today about the girl in Australia. I watched the video, but I missed the chat, and I hate when I miss the chat. And I try to put you on a reminder, but I thank you for all you do, and I'm so sorry about your brother, but I'm so glad you had a sign from him. Thanks, Greg.
Well, thank you.
Heart. Love you.
I love you too. Hey, thanks for calling in. That was good. Wow. It's just amazing, all these different stories that we're getting. And let's see, now we have 209. You're up.
Oh, that's me.
And I figured out how to keep the idiots from calling in, so it took me a while to figure it out.
So
but I apologize for everybody who had to look
about that real fast.
Oh yeah, okay. Go ahead.
For those people who feel the need to interrupt someone talking about their loved one passing away to say rude comments, y'all need to go talk to your mom or whoever the hell raised you and get new lessons on that, because you need to stay out of the public. You're not allowed out here yet. You're not ready for it.
Well said. Well said.
What happened to if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all? Geez, people are so rude.
It's amazing.
So, I am sorry to those two women that was just disrespectful.
Yeah, I was embarrassed. I was actually feeling ashamed for myself. Like, gosh, I mean, they're telling these great stories, and on my show, these idiots are calling in, and I just felt really
you
bad.
Cannot help who jumps on the internet, but they can help themselves, and that's where they're falling. So
Claudia just said, "You're my new Gray Hughes," because I say how I think, just like you just did.
Well, I can't help it. I get in trouble sometimes, but I don't care.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
anyway, so I have a story for you on the real, though, but I just had to say that first. So, I'm going to take it back to the more paranormal kind of, because for one, I'm getting really sad. Those two stories are really hurting my heart, and I feel bad for those women, and I'm glad that they're so happy now. They seem like they've really came far from that experience. But
yeah, it did sound like that.
Darrow's story really reminded me of something my sister kind of went through.
Uh-oh, here we go, everybody. Paranormal. This is some legit stuff right now. Here we go.
Legit creepy stuff.
Yeah.
Too. So, when we were kids, we lived in these apartment complexes, and it was like 6 apartments, and they would face a parking lot, and then another 6 would face a parking lot, and then ours would back up to another one, and then it was like that same setup on the other side, right? And then there was like a little grass spot in the middle behind our little parking lot, or little sections, and our window looked at that little grass spot. And we were on the 2nd floor, and that's kind of important. So when we looked out our bedroom window, we could see this little grass spot, and then that wall for the next apartment, and then up on the roof. And my sister would see a man on that roof all the time, and she called him the man in the black trench coat. And it was like a paranormal thing, like a creepy ghost kind of thing. Like she would see him at night, or she started having saw him one time in the middle of the night, and we weren't sure if it was like a real thing or like she was half asleep thing, but she was really little, and even now she doesn't quite remember, so it's hard to tell. But ever since then, she's been haunted by it, really. So then she'll see him on that roof, or she'll see him in the shadows of the trees behind there and stuff. And there's no lights back there because it's just behind 2 buildings. So it's like really easy to mistake things for people, kind of. And people go behind there all the time too. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was really people behind there, but she would see him on the roof, right? And then she would have dreams that we were on the second floor, so we would have to go upstairs, and then there's a little balcony, and then up another little flight of stairs, and then there was our porch kind of thing. And she would dream that we were playing at the bottom of the stairs, and she would see that guy, and he would start running, and we would run up the stairs to that first little balcony, and he would stop at the bottom of our stairs and start laughing. And then we would, like, I would start crying. She's my older sister, so in her dream, I was like, she was protecting me and stuff, and she would run in and try to find Mom, and by the time Mom would come out, he would be gone. And so stuff like that would happen. And then she became a teenager, and we moved from that apartment into a house in a town that was like a little ways, it was like 7 or 8 miles away from that town, so it wasn't too far. But she never really talked about it as we grew up. And then one time she said something about it, and she was drunk, but she was a teenager, so I'm not going to specify anything other than that.
Yeah.
In case my mom hears this someday. But she was intoxicated, and she had come home and was freaking out that she had seen this man and had ran home from whatever party she was at and was telling me about it. And ever since then, she was freaked out again about it. And then she kind of like went off, or kind of like let go about it. She got a boyfriend, and kind of just like petered off about it, I guess, right? And we became adults. And then, so I am 30 years old, so I grew up on that generation where we were learning the internet. And I had MySpace, and I had Photo Bucket, and I remember like fighting for not getting a Facebook. Like, I was not going to do it because it was like the crappy, boring version of MySpace, and you couldn't even put music on it. Like, why would I want that crap? That's stupid, you know?
Yeah.
And then everyone had it, and I just didn't have a choice. So when the internet started getting really informational, I guess, I feel like there was a point where people started realizing how common people were, and like you feel like you're the weirdo because in your area you're the only one like that, but really in another area, in another place, there's someone else that feels exactly like you. And that's one cool thing about the internet and social media. It brings us all together, sort of. And there was this one post on Facebook about common nightmare demon things or something, that the 10 most common demon nightmares that people have or whatever. And number 3 was the man in the black trench coat. Like, not even joking, not kidding. And I've never heard anyone else talk about it. I've never heard anyone else say nothing about it except for my sister. Yeah. And
well, here's what you want to hear. Something weird is I did one of the stories on my channel is called 7 Gates of Hell, and she saw that the guy, the black trench coat, black hat, and that's what she saw.
I haven't watched that one yet. I was just watching all your videos, and then this started, and I stopped to watch.
Yeah, so maybe that is out there.
See, I feel like I had seen him as a kid too, but it was one of those memories where you can't really tell if it was real or if you were just scared with everyone else, kind of thing. And it could have just been a man that was standing there. I don't remember. We were out walking, and we saw a man, and I thought it was a man in a black trench coat, right? So I can't really tell you that's the man in the black trench coat, but my sister was the one haunted by him. And then we find out that actually lots of people have been. There's actually a whole group of people you can join on Facebook.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent it to my sister, and they had pictures and stuff in there, and she goes, I looked at about 3 pictures, and I had to stop looking at it because it brought back memories, and it made me freak out again.
That's, maybe you'll find that it's, you know, there's more, you haven't seen the stories, but it's one of the more common, so obviously somebody's telling the story. They just don't tell it again. Like, they tell it to a researcher, but not to other people, right? Because how did they know that that was the number 3 story, but yet it's not told very often, the black trench coat? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know, because that was like I said, my sister had told me, and I'd heard her say it. Never heard anybody else say it until I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw that. It was a little, you know, they have like the 10 most common blah 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 floats off Facebook pages every once in a while. It was one of those things that was like, and I just read it because I thought it was cool, and I thought those things are kind of neat to read, and I sent it to my sister, and she cried, like, not literally, but like she was like, no, this is freaky.
Yeah.
It's weird how you can get other people to have this. See, okay, so I posted on there earlier. That's why I, like, all my paranormal experiences, I can't really say definitively, yes, they're paranormal, because in that moment, I can't tell you I did the full research to figure it out, right? So, like, if I heard something that I can't explain, then someone can say, well, if you would have done this, it could have explained this, right? But I didn't do that, so I can't explain, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try to debunk any of these stories. It's just sort of like they're things that you saw, and we don't know. You know, you could sit there and go, well, what if it was, you know, 1,000 different things, and you're never going to come up with a, well, it could have been, it could have been, it's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
And I'm a fact person. My mom and our whole family were like science people, so I'm not going to jump to that if it sounds like, oh, this is probably not a zebra kind of person, you know? So
yeah,
I just, there's things that have happened that are weird and creepy, and there's also a lot of people who have had weird, creepy things happen to them all over the world, and there's a lot of people who are honest people who would have gained nothing from telling that story, or evidence that's really hard to debunk, or
yeah, you get that a lot in the UFO, like in the UFO phenomenon. There's people that, that they have no reason to lie, you know, and they're really, you know, high.
So in my opinion, there's just too much of that for it to be completely nonsense, you know?
Yeah, no.
And if you are a God believer and you believe that God's the creator, then he didn't just stop with Earth.
Yeah. Well, right? I think even people who don't believe in God, I think people that don't believe in God even think that there's, you know, it could be something else. I mean, all I can say is I know that, you know, I've had weird things that I can't really explain. You know, I have pretty good intuition, that kind of thing, where, like, it's weird how sometimes things just sort of happen that I was thinking that's going to happen. So, anyways.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say I'm smart enough to know what it is, but I'm just saying there's got to be something, because there can't be this many people with this much evidence.
Yeah.
To not be nothing. I mean.
But like some of the things, like I'm saying.
Not what we think it is.
Some of the things that I assign. Oh man, there goes Alexa again. The things that I assign to intuition seem like it would be unlikely to, you know, intuit that. You know, if that's a term. You know, it's like it just sort of things you know, I mean, I've told people there was one with my uncle, my great uncle. I think he was, you know, he was really close to my mom, and you know, he was great whenever we saw him. And he was dying of cancer, and you know, he's always a strong guy. But my mom was just going, God, he's suffering so much, and I really felt bad going to sleep. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up happy because I knew that he died, and that he was feeling. He wasn't suffering anymore. And I ran into my brother's room and I said, "Hey, everybody, God, I think he just died." It was like, let's say it was like 2:30 in the morning, right? And you know, we just went back to sleep because who are you gonna, you know, you're not gonna start calling people. And then in the morning, my mom said, "Yeah, he died last night," and it was exactly the same time. It was like 2:30, whatever time that was that I woke up, like 2:30 something. That's when he died that night. So it was just weird. Those kind of things are weird, right? So I don't know where that comes from.
My grandma had a dream that her mom was at the foot of her bed the same night that she died, and it ended up being this, like, she woke up from that dream right when it happened, and it like was like around the same time that my great grandma died and everything. Yeah. And she said because of that dream, she had this peace that made the passing a little easier, that she feels like that's the reason she had the dream, kind of thing. Like it was all tied together, sort of. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it. I'm not gonna pretend to be smart enough.
Well, you did your part. You told your couple stories. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually open up. I have to like do a couple things to unlock. You know, get this meeting back open. All right, but. Man,
okay, well,
yes, you got a good story there. I appreciate you calling
all the people who are really tempted to call in and do something foolish, like say something obnoxious, just remember that you do not have to do that and that you shouldn't. So don't. That's it.
Yeah.
Just be adult about it and just don't do it.
And that's a boom. All right. So.
Have a good night.
All right. Thanks for calling. All right. Bye. All right. So I'm going to put the number back up on the screen. Thanks for calling in. These are really interesting. This is. Oh, there goes my stomach. This is about how I was kind of hoping this would be. All right. So there's the number. And all right, there you go. So Clarissa, if you're still out there, if you want to call in, that'd be cool. I got to do it by the order people call in though. Of course, at this point, we have a chance that the troll could call in. He's like salivating at this point. Salivate. How many subs do we have at this point? Are we still in the 700s?
Hello?
Oh. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, this is Clarissa. Sorry, it took a minute to get in here.
Okay, sorry about that. There was actually, I don't know if this 208 number here, I thought I already finished that call. Or is this, no, they're on hold here. Hold on a sec. Let me get rid of this. What number, are you a 760 number?
That's it, yep.
Okay, let me get rid of this other one, because there's another one with the same.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for all the highs.
Okay. All right.
I was trying to draw you a diagram of the story I'm about to tell, but then I kept coming back because I'm like, wait, he's going to finish this call, and I want to be sure to get my chance.
Yeah, so well, I won't be able to. I can't show any of my screens either, so that's the problem.
Oh, good. Never
I lost
mind
it.
then.
Yeah. So let's hear it. Okay. What do you got?
So, remember my house in South Africa that you found on Google Maps?
Yep, I remember it.
Okay, so it is a long, rectangular house. For those of you who don't know, it's an old farmhouse, and it has a very long hallway in the middle of the house. And the
Shut
hallway.
up, bitch.
Oh,
You
God.
suck.
See, he did get on me.
Oh, God.
All right, hold on. Jesus Christ.
Anyway, the house has a
There we
long
go.
hallway right in the middle.
Yeah.
And at each end of the hallway, it starts in the living room and ends in the main bedroom. And my bedroom and my brother's bedroom is on one side, and the kitchen and the bathroom is on the other side. So when I'm in my bedroom, lying down in my bed, looking through the door, I can see into the kitchen. So I can see a little bit of the hallway wall and then the kitchen. So that's just a little backstory about what I'm going to tell you next. So the previous caller had a story about a guy in a trench coat. And that's so bizarre because I also have a story about a guy in a trench coat. And my story is a little bit different, but sometimes when I went to sleep at night, my instincts were kind of like weird, like something bad is going to happen. And I would always go crying to my parents that I didn't want to go to sleep. I was worried. I was scared. I was just anxious. Something was giving me anxiety for whatever reason. And then I would eventually fall asleep and ignore it. And at some point during the night, wake up. And when I wake up during one of these nights, I would see a guy in the hallway. Of course, being in South Africa, I thought like somebody broke into the home, and I immediately like screamed. And then when the person didn't react or move, I would say hello, and the person wouldn't move, and I would be terrified that somebody was in the hallway. At the first time I saw him, he was just standing in the hallway staring into my room. He was wearing shoes, like dress shoes, pants. He would wear a button-down shirt, a trench coat, and a hat. One of those, like, you know those old-timey reporter hats? Like one of those hats, you know?
Like a fedora?
And yeah, a fedora hat. There we go. Yeah. And I would scream, and my dad would wake up and switch on the light in the hallway, and the person would just be gone, magically disappeared. So then I'm like, oh my God, I'm just making shit up. I'm dreaming. It doesn't matter. So it happened again. The next time I saw this guy, he wasn't standing in the hallway. He was sitting on the floor with his back against the wall and his knees up toward his chest and his arms resting on his knees, just looking into my room while I was sleeping. And I kind of like pulled the blankets over my head and put my back toward the hallway. And I would just pray and be like, oh my God, please, 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 go away. I don't believe in ghosts, you know? And turn around, he was still there. I did it again. And I would eventually just cry myself to sleep because I was so terrified. And I would wake up the next morning and the guy would be gone.
Wow.
Another night, I woke up and I looked into the hallway. I didn't see him sitting on the floor, and I thought, thank God. And then something in the kitchen caught my eye. I'm literally getting goosebumps as I'm telling you this. But something in the kitchen caught my eye. Now, in the middle of our giant kitchen, there is a table with 4 chairs, and he was sitting in one of the chairs with his back toward me, and he looked over his shoulder right at me, took off his hat, put it on the table next to him, and then took a sip of beer. There was a bottle of beer next to him, one of my dad's beers from the fridge, and he took a sip of the beer, put it back on the table, looked at me one more time, and then looked straight ahead in front of him. And I kind of like blinked, and he was gone. The next morning, my dad woke us up, and he was screaming. He was furious, and he was like, which one of you 2 kids drank my beer? And he was furious. My dad didn't drink much. He had malaria while he was in the military, and he had really bad liver damage because of it. So he would drink alcoholic, like free beer or low alcoholic beer, and he only had a couple in the fridge. He would not drink very often, just once or twice, like at a barbecue. So he had beers, but none of us would drink it. And the beer was on the table, it was open, and there was a little bit out of the beer, like missing out of the beer. And I was like, Dad, I swear to God, there was a man in the kitchen last night, the same man that I've been telling you I've been seeing. And he's like, no, you're just being a silly teenager. You're just trying to experiment with beer and you're trying to blame it on a ghost, you know? And I'm like, Dad, I swear to God, I saw this ghost drinking your beer. Like, believe me, it's a true story. And he was like, no, he doesn't believe it. So my mom said that, you know what, every time she's in the living room, she sees someone in her peripheral walking down the hallway. And I have seen this person walk down the hallway too. You can't really see him, but you know somebody's walking right there. And my couch that I would usually sit on, my back is toward the hallway. So every time I'd feel his presence, I'd look around to see who's coming down the hallway, and nobody's there. Nobody's there. So my mom's saying, okay, I've seen something in the hallway, something's been up. So she decided, okay, I'm going to sleep in your room tonight. And she stayed in my room. Lo and behold, in the middle of the night, she sees the same man. And instead of him being in the hallway, I get chills telling the story right now. Instead of him being in the hallway, he was on top of her, holding her down into my bed, screaming in her face. And she said she was paralyzed. She couldn't move. She couldn't scream. She couldn't get up. But as soon as he let her go, she got up out of bed and ran down the hallway and switched on all of the lights. And she cried and she said, it's true. I saw him. It's true. To this day, my dad does not believe either myself or my mom, says it's a complete lie. Now, a couple of years passed. After that happened with my mom, I never saw him again in the hallway and kind of forgot about him a little bit. But every now and then we'll just feel somebody come down the hall. So years passed, and my mom and my dad moved out of the house, and my grandmother and my grandfather moved in with me into the house. And we're sitting on the couch one afternoon, and we're watching TV, and my grandmother feels someone walking down the hall, just like I did. And I've gotten used to it at this point and kind of just ignored it. But my grandmother decided to start talking to someone. And she's like talking as if she's talking to my grandfather. And I'm like, Grandma, who the hell are you talking to? She's like, oh, your grandpa just got home. And I'm like, no, he's not home yet. She's like, I just saw him come down the hallway. And I said, Grandma, nobody's home. And she's like, oh, it's probably your cousin. And she starts talking to my cousin. And I get up and I look out the window. I go down the hallway. I'm like, Grandma, nobody's here. She said, I saw someone in the hallway. I said, Grandma, it's just the ghost. He's been here for years. And she's like, no, that's bull. There's no such thing as ghosts. And she kept talking to the ghost every single time she felt someone coming down the hallway, thinking that it's someone else. And then she would get mad at my grandfather, and she'd be like, you need to turn up your hearing aid because you don't hear me when you're walking down the hall and I'm talking to you and you don't hear me. And my grandfather would say, I wasn't down the hall. I was sitting here the whole time. I haven't been in the hall at all. And she's like, you're just trying to scare me. You're lying. So we all see this ghost in the hallway. Half of us believe it and acknowledge that it's the truth, and the other half completely ignore the fact that there's a ghost in the house.
Wow. That's crazy. So that, like, she was actually talking to the ghost, but didn't realize it.
Right. And she refused to acknowledge that it was a ghost.
Yeah.
She just thinks everyone else is crazy.
Well, do you still talk to your sister about it sometimes now?
My mom?
Or your mom, excuse me, your mom. Yeah, your mom.
Yeah, I still talk to my mom all the time. But my mom insists that there was another ghost in the house. I never saw this ghost, but she said this lady was obsessed with my dad, and she said it was an older lady. And she said that she would always just appear when my dad was at home because he would go away on business sometimes, and she said she only appeared when my dad was home. And then his side of the bed where he sleeps, she would stand at the foot and end of the bed and just stare at him while he was sleeping. And when he wasn't there, when he was away on business, she would like bother my mom. Like, she would tap on her shoulder when my mom is sleeping, and she would turn around and nobody's there, or she would like breathe in my mom's face, like like that, and my mom would feel the breath on her face and wake up, and there's nothing. And my mom insists that she sees this ghost, but nobody else has seen her.
Spooky. Look at this, everybody. See, that's weird how many... I think even Audra Blankenship had some similar ones. Like I don't know if you've watched the 6 videos that I have on there.
I started to, but I have to confess I've never finished.
Yeah. But they're awesome.
I'm definitely going to watch them after this.
Yeah. It's weird how there's sort of this overlap all the time. Yeah, I mean they're all totally different
too. It's like so spooky that people saw this guy in the trench coat too, and I'm like, wait a second, I have a trench coat guy story.
Yeah, that's like I was saying, the one called 7 Gates of Hell, because there's this area called 7 Gates of Hell. They're railroad bridges, and if you go through them, the legend at midnight. If you go through all 7 of them, you open up the gates of hell, and then you have to go back through them to close it, something like that. But anyways, they just lived near there, and she said when she was little, she was just riding her bike, walking her bike, and then there was this guy behind her in a trench coat, the whole, black, everything, and then she turned around, and the guy was pointing up at a window or something, and then she turned around, and he just was gone, disappeared. So, there's a lot of weird stories out there, And these are in the minds, the memories of people, It's not like they're just making them up,
No. I remember it very vividly, and if you ask me right now to draw a picture of him, I'm a really bad drawer, but I would know exactly, details of what to draw.
Yeah? Well, just do a description, if you can.
Well, I mean, I know what he was wearing, and kind of I know a little bit of a facial expression, too. It was an older guy, maybe between 50 and 60 years old.
Yeah, that's about how old this guy was. That's how old the guy was. You should go watch 7 Gates of Hell and see if it looks anything. I mean, she just found some images on the internet that represented what she kind of, what she remembered. So it's not like she sketched it out.
Okay, I'm going to go watch it for sure now.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody's about to have some nightmares, guys. Buckle up.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool.
Well, there is another ghost story in South Africa that is very common.
Oh, yeah?
There's this exact location. I can't remember exactly what the location is, but I'll do some research and I'll message you about it. But there's an exact location where people keep picking up 2 hitchhikers. And they pick up the same 2 hitchhikers, a young man and a young woman, and then they ask to be dropped off a little bit up the road, and they'll drive to go drop them off at this, I think it's like a bar or something similar right up the road. So they're driving toward this bar or something to drop them off, and on the way there's a bridge, and as they pass over the bridge, the people would be talking to these 2 hitchhikers, and then the next moment they'll look in the rear view mirror and they'll be completely gone.
Almost like they were 2 people that killed themselves off that bridge or died or something.
Yeah, so what happened is years and years and years ago, a young couple were on a motorcycle, and I guess they weren't wearing any helmets or something. I'm very vague on the details. I'll have to go look it up. But apparently they got into an accident, and both of them or one of them died in that accident, and now they always haunt that area. They're just stuck there. And every time they go over the bridge, it's like their spirit can't move past that bridge. They can never move on. So whenever they go over the bridge, they vanish out of the car, and they never reach their destination.
Well, there you go. Another crazy... well, the thing is, what we need somebody who's one of the people who picked up the hitchhikers, because this is the personal paranormal.
Yeah, that would be great.
This is like your personal paranormal story, right? So if you
I just thought it would be fun.
Maybe if we put the word out, we can get one of those people. Do you know how to get?
I'll put the feelers out and see if any of my South African friends had a similar story to that, or
that'd be cool.
Know someone who had that experience.
Yeah, it sounds like South Africa has a little bit of haunting going on there with the trench coats.
With all the bad stuff that happened there, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks for having me on as always. I had so much fun.
Clarissa Chic. I remembered at that time.
I hope we get many more good callers.
Okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for
Have
calling
a good
in.
night, guys.
Oh, have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye. Oh, let's see. And by the way, that they did a pretty cool show yesterday with her and Crimes. Actually, they did this sort of back and forth on this story out of Russia. So it's pretty interesting. All right, so I'm going to what's this? Oh yeah, mute. Let's see, unmute. All right, this is 208. You're on the air now.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sorry for the long wait there. You guys dialed in. You were just after, I think, did you call before too, or? I don't remember.
No, I think we probably called about the same time.
Oh, okay. Actually. Yeah, you called just before. All right. So what do you got? Who's this?
Okay,
who am I speaking to?
Well, this is Soldier Photos. Soldier Photos.
Oh, cool. Soldier Photos.
I'll just tell you guys my name. My name is Sarah. I'm always saying hello from Southern Idaho.
Well, hello.
But the story that I wanted to share with you guys tonight is actually took place in Tacoma. And I wanted to share it because I was hoping that maybe someone...
Wow, something just popped up.
Maybe
that wasn't,
some...
Hold on a second. Sorry, that wasn't a prank. That wasn't a troll. That was a web page that just popped up that I had open. That started after 3 hours. Thought it would start playing a video. You know, so.
Of course.
I'll have to just make sure everything is shut down. Okay, there we go. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay. So I have not shared this story with a lot of people, and the reason why is it's because it's very strange, and I just figure that most people will probably not believe me, but I'm hoping that perhaps maybe somebody has experienced something like this, and we'll share it in the live chat or call in. Okay, so it's Tacoma, Washington, and I lived near Wrights Park, and it's a pretty good-sized park. And I had some friends that lived on the other side of it, and they had invited me over for a movie. So I went over there and watched the movie and hung out, and it was about midnight when I left. And, you know, Tacoma's not Seattle, so it's not a huge city, but it's still kind of scary to walk around at night. So I always kind of walked on the side of the park where it was really well lit. And I never walked through the park at night because it's pretty dark and kind of creepy. So I'm walking alongside the park on the other side of the street, of course, like across the street from it. And I just kind of noticed out of my peripheral vision that it looked like a black plastic bag was just kind of floating along the street. So that doesn't sound very strange, right? It's just a piece of garbage floating around in the city. It happens all the time. But then I realized that it's not windy out. It's not windy out. So there's nothing that could be blowing whatever that is. And I look closer. I'm kind of squinting my eyes at it because I wear glasses and I didn't have my glasses on. But things are just slightly blurry for me, so I can still see pretty well. Anyway, so I'm looking at this thing, and I noticed that it's not a plastic bag. It is I don't know how to describe. It was a black mass that was probably about the size of like a small dog, but it wasn't even on the ground. I don't know how to describe it except for that it looked like it was gliding above the ground. And you know, when I'm looking at this thing, I just have this feeling that I need to get as far away from it as possible. Now, I know people are thinking, you know, she probably just saw this, you know, piece of garbage and it was in the city and it's just blowing up. It wasn't windy that night. I mean, the air was absolutely still. And this thing is keeping pace with me as I'm walking, and I start picking up my pace. And then this thing begins to cross the street, and not directly towards me, but right in front of me. And it's gliding. And as it's gliding kind of in front of me, I'm running. This is how scared I was. I actually ran into the park where it's dark, and it's well known that, you know, creepy people hang out there.
What is this?
Through the park.
This just looks like a piece of garbage, though. The whole time you weren't sure.
It didn't. It did. When I first saw it out of my side vision, it did, because that's what I thought it was. I was just walking and I saw this piece of garbage, and I thought it was a piece of garbage. But then when I actually turned my head and looked at it, it had no actual shape. It was just this black mass that seemed like, I wouldn't say floating because it looked like it was on the ground, but when I looked when I actually looked at it,
wow.
I could actually see like maybe an inch or two between it and the ground. And I just got this feeling that it was something dark, something, I don't want to say evil. It just seemed like it had bad energy to it. So whatever it was, I just noped the hell out of there. I ran across the park, which that would have been scary enough, but I didn't even care at that point. I just wanted to get as far away from it as possible. And when I was about halfway through the park, I looked over to see, because I was worried, like, of course, you know, is this thing following me? What is this thing? But it had just kept going down the street, whatever it was. And I'm telling you, people, for any of you skeptics out there wasn't any wind, okay? This wasn't something that was being blown down the street. And I just don't talk about it to very many people because I've never really heard anyone talk about seeing a dark mass, you know. But it's just, I guess it's one of those things that if you were there and if you saw the way that it moved and that it didn't hold any actual shape, it didn't make any noise like a plastic bag would make either. It was completely silent.
Yeah, this is a different one here. I haven't heard this one before.
Yeah.
Like if you were gonna try to describe it better, like the.
Okay, so all right. So as far as the size goes, gosh, trying to think of the best way that you would describe it. It just, you couldn't see through it at all. You could not see through it.
Was it fuzzy looking? Or?
No, it looked like if you were to look at like a black hole. I know that sounds strange, but if you were to look at like a black hole, that's how it looked, but it didn't look circular. As it was moving, it just kind of,
so
it almost moved like water. It kind of moved like water.
So it was like a black shape that would
like
move around
water,
like an amoeba, but it had solid edges and it was just one solid black color.
Right. And it didn't really, it didn't really hold edges, is what I'm trying to say. Like, that was what was so strange about it, and that's why I knew that it wasn't a solid object I knew it wasn't like a piece of garbage or anything. That's how I knew it wasn't like a black plastic bag.
Would you say it's sort of like mercury? You know, like, let's pretend mercury was, you know, that liquid that stayed all together, but it was black.
It moved like mercury. Yeah. Yes. That's a great way to describe it, Gray, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking nuts.
And the only other thing I can say is, like I said, there was a very bad feeling coming from that. It was like I was getting a bad feeling. Like my instincts were telling me to get the hell out of there and get as far away from it as possible. So if evil roams this earth, then perhaps that night I witnessed evil roaming the earth.
And see, the thing is the way you told that story is totally. I believe that you saw what you're describing. Okay.
I was shaken. It was. I've never known. You know, how do you even look up something like that? How do you research?
You can't. Yeah, you can't look it up.
So,
but the thing is you saw it. How old were you at the time?
Yes. Okay, so I was about 21, and
okay.
Even though I was of drinking age, and even though my friends had been drinking that night, I wasn't really a drinker, and I'm still really not. But even back then, I just didn't really drink, so I was completely sober.
See, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, so you were sober, 21 years old, and I don't know how old you are now, but you know, you saw this.
37.
Yeah, and it's not really that long ago, really. I mean, that's.
Yeah, and
that's a weird one.
Always remains. Yeah, it's just always kind of remained like one of those mysteries. You know, if it was more of like a ghostly thing, at least you could categorize that. But with this one, yeah.
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, because it's just so one-off type of like you probably don't see ghosts all the time and all kinds of weird. This is just this thing that you saw one time that you can't explain, right?
Right. And you know, I listen to Coast as well, and so I've heard callers call in and describe a strange black mass that they've seen, and sometimes it's bigger and sometimes it's smaller. But this one, you know, I'm just glad it didn't follow me home.
But it seemed like it was following you at one point.
Well, okay, so it wasn't following me. So as I was walking on the other side of the street of the park, it was like parallel with me. So maybe it was following me, but it seemed like it had its direction that it was going. And when it started to cross the street, it didn't cross directly at me. It was like, it was just a few feet. It like kind of was a few feet ahead of me. And
it was just kind of doing its own
over.
thing, but it seemed to be going the same direction you were you know,
right?
Like you know, so
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was kind of afraid that, like, you know, I didn't know what I was looking at, and I definitely didn't want to cross paths and find out what it was. So
that's absolutely crazy. That's I mean, you know, that's one of those ones where, you know, you don't hear that one too often. You may have on coast to coast, but
hopefully,
yeah.
Well, yeah, and hopefully, I don't know. We have, hopefully, someone has maybe witnessed something like this, and if they haven't, that's fine too. But I'd be interested to know. I just had a few questions for you, really quick, and then I'll get off. One, are you going to possibly do another one of these on your paranormal channel where you?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of doing them on Fridays.
Excellent. Excellent. Because I do have a few more stories to share, but I think I'd like to wait and maybe share one next time.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And I don't know how many callers you have waiting, but I was going to ask you a question, and then I could even take it off the air. But I was wondering if you would give us your opinion, what you thought about the missing 411 cases. If you've heard of them, I'm sure you have. It's David Paulides that does them.
Yeah, are these the people that are missing in the woods all around? Like the... Yeah, there was a show on, like a documentary, right? And that's the guy...
Yeah, there's several, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really... I watched the one... I can't remember the name of the family, but it was like the father, the mother, their son. They were sort of up in the mountains by a creek. They had a friend with them and the grandfather. Then the kid walked away, and he just disappeared into thin air, basically. And nobody's ever been able to... And, you know, the mother and the husband, you know, the father, they don't really... I don't think they're together anymore. It's just kind of a weird story altogether. That's part of that
Yeah,
series.
that one was actually... Yeah, that was actually... that case was actually in Idaho.
Yeah, that was one of them, though, right? Like one of those.
I'm still on the fence with that one. I don't know if that's a missing 411 case. Right. I guess it is part of it now, but I knew it as the murder case. And yeah,
it seems like
pretty
a murder.
Interesting, actually.
Seems like one of those people did something, but they can't find him or anything. It's weird. It was so quick.
Well, yeah, and then the private investigator that worked for the mom and dad whose son went missing, he actually quit working for them because he felt like they weren't being honest.
Yeah, every time you see interviews, they seem kind of dodgy. But all right, yeah, I don't know if I might cover that. I mean, I like to just kind of find these off the, you know, maybe news stories and sometimes just random stories that we find, and then miraculously they become big in the news somehow. You know, remember like the Cheryl Coker? Yeah, nobody was even talking about
all of those cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one really pays attention to them. But, you know, I think that's what's great about you running your show, Gray, is that it brings more awareness and it brings everybody together in a community that are interested in true crimes that might be able to help in some small way, whether it's giving you footage at a scene or, you know, whatever sleuthing that they're into. I think it does help.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I got these people.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. I think you might want to maybe put that into the Personal Paranormal Facebook page so that I can get reminded, because it might be one that you could almost reenact with animation. Just
because I can show which house I came from and the park.
Oh, sure. Well, we got to do it then. So put your story in there then, okay? That would be awesome. Cool. At least I could, you know, I can use Google Earth and then stills from that, and then have a character walking down the street and, you know, show what happened. That'd be awesome.
Yes,
all right.
That would be awesome, actually.
Well, cool.
Well, thank you, Gray.
Well, thanks for calling in.
All
Thanks
right.
a lot.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Okay, we'll see you in the chat.
Okay, bye. Okay, there you go. There is the call-in number. Thanks for the call there. That was really interesting. It was like, hadn't heard that one before. I like those. I mean, I haven't heard any of these before, but some of them have similar themes. I'm gonna have to try to be quick on my feet here, though. Yeah, let's hit that 800. I'll probably be doing this every Friday for a while, at least when I'm in town. Or sometimes maybe if I'm in town but something's going on. I'll try to do it. Well, I got the number up for you. Yeah, I mean, every single call tonight's been awesome. Other than the idiot that calls in over and over again. Yeah. So the people that said, Gray, put the number in the back on the screen, were they actually going to be calling in, or were they just wanting other people to call in? Yeah. Well, make sure you guys share this video and maybe, you know, put it out there somewhere where people will know that it exists the next time. Because we actually had over 100 people on an absolutely unknown channel that's not related to true crime. So I thought that was pretty good. Well, you got your snacks ready, but let's see. All right.
Hello, Gray. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. This is Charlotte. I'm sorry. I've been.
Oh, there you go.
I've been spamming the chat and saying, "Where's the number?" So I'm calling because I've been hearing some of the stories here, and I actually left a I left a comment on the little video that you put up before, telling everybody about this video that was going to be playing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I said that I have many stories that I can share throughout my childhood, living in a house where paranormal things happen all the time. But I wish that it wasn't so late at night. I could get my mother on the phone with me, and she could corroborate, you know, lots of my stories, and also my sister. But we all live in different parts of the country, so I don't know. Maybe we could do that some other time. But I'll just give you like a little overview about a couple of things that happened. First of all, also, you know, I could give you the address, and you can look it up on Google Maps, and I can show you pictures inside the home, you know, from things like that. But I don't have that stuff ready right now.
Okay.
I mean, I can give you the address.
Yeah. Well, what you do is just put that all together in a you know, create your own post in the Personal Paranormal page, and then put all that stuff in there, and then tag me after you've put it up there.
I do not have social media. I got off of that a couple of years ago for many reasons. So
yeah, well,
I can email you.
Okay, yeah, do that. My email's in the description on my. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody could check for me if it's in the description of this video, but
I do not see it in the description of this video.
Let me put it in the chat here.
Okay, thanks. So anyway, I'll get started. Anyway, so I grew up in a small town in Hillsville, North Carolina. Hillsville is not really, I think, like an official place on the map. It's the mailing address is actually Sophia, North Carolina. But Hillsville is a small place, like between two bigger towns. Anyway, it's about in the middle of the state. That doesn't really matter, but I was just going to give you an idea of where it was. So I grew up in this house that from the age of 4 until the age of 21. So I spent many years there. Okay, so things that would, and this, you know, I'm going to talk to you about these things, and if I seem nonchalant, it's because after, you know, 20 years, or it's almost 20 years experiencing these things, it's not scary anymore, and it's not even surprising anymore, because it's something that the ghost became part of our family, basically, because, you know, we kind of expected it. But anyway, let me just tell you what would happen. So I don't remember the first time I saw this, but I was young. I mean, I might have been 7 years old, and then, you know, it happened throughout the years. But my mother and I both, we would experience this together. We would experience it separately, but it was always in the same place in the house. You'd be sitting on the couch, and let's say you're sitting on the couch in the living room, and straight across from you is the TV, and then a big picture window. And then to the right of that picture window is a front door to go outside of the house. The front door has a metal screen door that also locks from the inside, and a big wooden heavy door that has a round knob that locks from the inside. We never use that door. It stays locked all the time. So you'd be sitting there watching television or whatever. I mean, we're usually watching TV. And you'd catch something out of the corner of your eye on the right side of you. So you're looking at TV here. And, you know, you go, what was that? You know, almost, you wouldn't have to even say it out loud to yourself, but you would see something so much that it would catch your eye, and you wouldn't think that you didn't see something. I mean, you knew you saw something move, some movement, but you never could catch it. You know, you could never turn your head quick enough. So what you would see, or what I have seen, is a gray, and I don't even know if I want to use the word figure, because sometimes this thing was a column from floor to ceiling. And like I said, this is peripheral vision, so it's hard to get edges and things like that, but it was a smoky-like gray mass. And I say smoky because you know, you were asking the lady before about that thing that she saw floating on the road, and like, you know, what was it, see-through or whatever. This was not, you could not see through it. It was opaque enough that if you did catch enough of it in your peripheral, you could see that whenever it passed by, that it blocked out the stuff behind it. So it was as if this thing was coming from the front door in a straight line to our hallway. There was a hallway back there. So if you're sitting at the couch, you would see this thing come like from the front door to all the way to the right of you, and then it would disappear. And where it disappeared was like our hallway. Excuse me. So it, you know, a lot of times I saw it as a kid, and I always just thought, oh, what was that? You know, I didn't really see anything. I didn't know what it was. You never could catch it enough to tell somebody and say, hey, what, you know, did you see that thing the other day? Or anyway, so sometimes my mother and I would be watching television at night together, and we would both see it, and it would happen, and I'd like look at her, and she'd look at me, and I'd be like, did you see that? And she'd say, yeah. Did you see that? I'd say, yeah. And we both kind of like, because she's into paranormal stuff and everything like that. We used to watch like, you know, unsolved mysteries and whatever. But, you know, so she was very open to things like that. She was not someone who was skeptical or anything. And so I think I became, you know, one of those people too, where I kind of was like more open to, okay, this stuff is real. It happens, you know. So try not to negate it, instead try to see what's going on.
What did this look like?
So we see this thing.
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
What did it look like? It was like a gray something?
So I would say the color of it was like, like the gray color of a sweatsuit, of a jogging suit. Let's think about a men's, you know, gray, old-fashioned, whatever, you know, heather gray, I guess they would call it. Sweatsuit. I mean, you couldn't see that this was a sweatsuit. Okay, it could have been anything. It could have been any kind of clothing. But both my mother and I, over talking to each other, each time this would happen, would try to identify more and more the things that we could see. And to her, she said it was a tall man, and he could have even been wearing a top hat. And to me, I described it as, it looked like a guy running really fast through our living room, like as if he was in a jogging suit. And that's because that was the color. And I was a kid, so, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of vocabulary.
I mean, was it just out of the corner of your eye, or I can't remember what you were saying about that?
So yeah, out of the peripheral of your eye, if it would be to the right side of me, you would see it come from the front door area, which is closed, you know, to the hallway. And like, you know, I was listening to to this show earlier, and some lady was talking about something that happened, and I'm not saying anything bad about other people's stories, but you know, some of these things are dreams or could have been a dream. You know, you just can't tell. But this is the stuff that would happen right in the middle of, you know, I'd say broad daylight, but not usually. Sometimes it was at night, but sometimes it did happen when the sun was out. But it was always when things were just real calm and normal. You know, it wasn't like it would happen when there was a heightened sense of, like, if the family was fighting or something like that.
But like when you would turn your,
chilling out.
But when you would turn, like you see it in the corner of your eye running, and then as soon as you turn your head, it's not there, kind of thing.
It's just not there, yeah. Like because it would disappear. Like by the time, I'd say that the distance this thing would you would see it would be about 12 feet at the most. So it would like run like fat. You know, I say running because that seems like the speed of it, as if you'd have like a professional runner or something. You know, they're pretty quick. But so, like I said, my mom, she would see it from a different angle because she had this recliner that would sit facing the wall that, I guess, anyway, like I said, I have pictures I can show you in my living room where I was growing up and where everything occurred. So there was a fireplace on that wall. So there was a front door, and then the wall that was right there beside it, fireplace, and then the hallway, which led into the bathroom and the bedrooms. But anyway, so she would see it more straight on, but still she could never catch it. Like it was almost because of the speed or the color or just like the undefinedness of it, you know, because it wasn't an actual, I guess, I don't know, like an actual thing that you could touch. I mean, I don't know if you could touch it or not, but we never did. So it's not like somebody threw a ball, you could catch you could track the ball with your eyes. It was like you couldn't focus on it. Like, you know, kind of like,
yeah.
Excuse me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, excuse me. Anyway, so that became something that would happen almost weekly to me and my mom, sometimes separately, sometimes together. Now, who's now ex-husband, at the time was my boyfriend. When I became, you know, teenager, I was 16 years old, I had a boyfriend. And he would, now, we didn't tell him about it, because it's nothing. My mom and I were kind of like, you know, let's just see if anybody ever sees it. We're not going to, you know, prime people for it, prep people for it, because she and I, you know, we wanted to see if,
you don't want to do
crazy.
You don't want to do a suggestion and then, oh wow, exactly. Yeah, I saw it too. But you want to see if they just kind of look around and go, did you guys see that? You know, like that. Yeah.
So at the time, my boyfriend, you know, would spend a lot of time with me at home, and we would sit in the living room, watch TV. You know, my mom would be there or she wouldn't. But one night, we were all three sitting in the living room, and I saw it, and I looked at Mama, and we looked at my ex-husband, as boyfriend at the time, and he was like, what was that? And we were like, oh my God, you saw the ghost, you saw it. We were so excited, because we were like, you know, nobody, even my dad didn't really believe us, because he had never seen it. So he wasn't home much, and I don't know. But anyway, so a third party who was not living in the home has seen it, and he saw it then, you know, many times over the years. He also claims to have, one night when he was sleeping in one of the bedrooms, as you know, I was older, he would spend the night sometimes. It was nothing weird. We got married later. Anyway, he claims that one night he woke up to, I guess some people call it a shadow figure, but this is another thing. This could be like a dream. You really can't tell. Sometimes you can't tell. But he says he woke up in the middle of the night with this black, huge figure standing over him, you know, just in a very menacing way, and he just froze and, you know, closed his eyes and tried to go back to sleep, and that's what he remembers. But, you know, that could be anything. But that's one particular thing that was a reoccurring. And, you know, we've tried to make sense out of that over the years, but, you know, it could, I don't know, I can't remember what they call certain paranormal things that are like a tape playing over and over. You know, it's like, kind of like if you go to a haunted house, like, I don't know, or one of these old mansions, and they say, oh yeah, sometimes you can see, this old lady walking down the steps. It was kind of like that. It was so common at that point. And a couple of my friends had seen it that had come over, but they didn't really believe it because they would only see it one time. To them it could be whatever. I saw something out of the corner of my eye. But when you see it weekly for years, and that's another thing I was saying, like with things that were possible dreams, that's a possible dream or whatever. You can't really pin down that that's paranormal or not. But with this, it was something that would happen, and there would be no other explanation. We know there really wasn't a man running through our living room, and it just didn't make any sense, any other sense. Now, so as far as this figure, this happened for many years, and then when I turned 21 and got married and moved out, my mother, we didn't talk about it. It just became normal. We talked about it every now and then, but it wasn't something we talked about all the time, But anyway, a few months after I moved out and got married, she called me on the phone one day and was talking, and she just, kind of asked me, hey, have you had anything weird happen in your house? Have you, seen a ghost, whatever? And I said, no, I haven't. It's like, have you, And she said, no, actually, nothing has happened since you've been gone. And it's really strange. And she's like, it feels different here. And see, that thing, it never felt scary or menacing or anything. It always just felt like it was another person living in the house.
It was like some old guy, old man with a gray tracksuit on that was running by. And then
that's how I describe it, yeah. Or my mom says a man in a suit, gray colored, wearing a top hat.
But he was running.
We could have, but she's looking at it at a different angle than I am. But anyway, so hold on. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I didn't see, nothing happened. So anyway, since I moved out of that house, since then my dad died, my mom sold the house, and she had moved away. So in 2005 is when 2006 is when she sold that house. So until that point, for like 2 years, nothing happened after I moved out. 2 years that she lived there. And she, it was inexplicable. And so she thought, I think, every now and then she would mention to me, I guess the ghost followed you. And I said, well, nothing's happened, at wherever I was living. And I lived at a couple different places over the years because I was newly married and we had apartments and stuff like that. So I was always waiting for something to happen, like, at my new place, and nothing ever did. And still since then, nothing's ever happened. So, I've always kind of felt like it could have been, I don't know, it could have been like a spirit guy. I don't know. You just can't tell. But whatever it wasn't scary.
Well, it sounds like it was something that other people saw.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sounds like something other people saw. It wasn't like it.
Yes, other people did see it. Yeah. And
you said another thing.
My mom has this. Yeah, my mom has a story that she can tell, but of course, I can't tell it as well as she can. But where she saw a man in his underwear walking through our living room and into the kitchen one night. But I don't want to tell that story and get it wrong.
Well, that's her story too. So that's her personal paranormal.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if I can convince her to call you sometime. Anyway.
Okay.
But I have another story that was very, very scary, and this was when I was about 11 years old, I think. I was still very much attached to my parents, and sometimes I would go sleep in their bed in the middle of the night. I would walk from my bedroom to their bedroom, get in the middle of the bed and sleep with them. I was very much like a mama's girl, and they were used to that. It wasn't anything out of the norm. So one night, also I sleptwalk. I would sleepwalk, and I had night terrors and all this weird stuff when I was a kid. It was very crazy, but the night terrors passed away after a couple of years, thank God. But anyway, so I was sleeping in my bedroom one night, and this bedroom is right behind the living room. So, like I said, I can't describe it right now. But anyway, so one night I went to bed in my bed, like I always did, and I woke up on the couch, which happened a lot to me. I would just sleepwalk to the couch at some point during the night. So it wasn't abnormal for me to wake up on the couch and I'd be confused and I'd be like, did I fall asleep out here? And I realized, no, I didn't, but I'm going to go back to bed. So I usually get up, go to the bathroom, and go back to bed in my own bed. But this night, I opened my eyes, and I was on the couch. I was laying flat on my back. And, you know, we didn't have any night lights or anything like that. I was in the living room, of course. And so I was laying on the couch, which was in the room where the living room is, where the picture window is, and we had some big curtains and stuff, so you couldn't see through the window. Or from the outside, you couldn't see through the curtains inside. And the big wooden door that's the front door was, I guess you could say, to my right if I'm laying on my back on the couch. So I woke up one night on the couch, and I was getting ready to get up and like go to the bathroom and then go back to bed. But I got real scared all of a sudden, and I wasn't asleep because it would have been impossible if I were asleep at this point, because I got up and walked, or I crawled. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. I heard something to my right, which was near the front door, and you know, it's dark, but there's like little light from somebody's TV was on the other room or whatever. It wasn't like super bright, not super dark. Anyway, our handle, the door handle on the front door, this was really scary, excuse me. It was moving, okay, as if someone was turning it, and I froze. I was so scared because I thought I had just woken up in the middle of us getting burglarized. I mean, it was really scary. I was like, what am I supposed to do? You know, they're out right outside this door. So all I could think of was try to get to my parents' room. So I like rolled off the couch silently and very slowly, and this whole time got my eyes locked on that front door handle. And it's just a regular old door handle. It's round, it's like golden colored, and it's got just like a little thing in the middle where you would turn a lock, you know.
Right, yeah.
So the lock was turned as if it, you know, was locked, because we locked it. Like nobody ever used it anyway, so it never got unlocked. But anyway, it was turning, and in order for this is in hindsight, but in order for a knob like that to turn, it has to be unlocked. If it's locked, you can't turn it. You know, if you try to turn it, the locking mechanism stops it from turning, which is what stops it from opening the door. Anyway, so I'm crawling on my hands and knees, staying as low to the ground as I can, because I'm scared that somebody could see me. Maybe if their faces are up to the window and they're looking through the curtains, they might see that there's somebody right there, you know. And so I'm crawling, and I get to the hallway, and at this point I'm gonna end up losing sight of the door. So at that point I'm like, you know, really scared, because I still have a couple of feet to go to get to my parents' room, and at that point I feel like they could come in right there, and I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna be horrifying. So the last time I looked at that door handle, or that doorknob, it was still turning as if it, you know, somebody was out there. I could hear it. I couldn't hear any people, but I could hear that door handle turning. I could see it, and crawling. And so then when I get to that point where I lose sight of it, I quickly then crawl to my parents' bed and lay in the bed and wake my mom up very quietly. And I said, I think somebody's breaking in. You know, and she's like, what? Because she just woke up. I think someone's breaking in. Mama should be quiet. You know, we didn't have a gun in our house or anything like that. So we didn't, and my dad was asleep right beside her. So anyway, so we sat there in silence for like 2 minutes, right? Because I was basically thinking that, I mean, I told her, I was like, the door handle's moving. Somebody's out there. Well, we were waiting to hear the door open or something. Nothing ever happened. So, you know, a few more minutes pass, and then we get up real quiet, me and my mom and my dad, and we start looking out the windows in her bedroom, first of all, to see if we could see anybody out there. We couldn't see anybody or hear anything. And then we go walk into the living room quietly. And my dad's got a baseball bat or something at this point. I don't remember what it was, but, you know, we're very much expecting someone to be out there. There's nobody there. So the door's closed, you know, everything's fine. So my parents are pissed because I woke them up in the middle of the night for what they think was something that I either made up or was confused about. But, you know, we go over to the door, and my dad goes outside too, and the metal screen door is locked from the outside. I'm sorry, from the inside. You know, they have a little lock, a little pin or something that you click up or down to unlock a little screen door. And then the big wooden front door is also closed and locked from the inside. So the turning of the knob was occurring by someone or something turning that knob from inside the house. But I couldn't see that person or whatever the heck was doing that. But I could see the knob turning And at that point, I was horrified. And of course, me and my mom were like, because she and I both believe in, paranormal stuff. My dad's like, oh, you were just dreaming or something, And I'm like, I was crawling on the floor. I wasn't asleep. I mean, when you got adrenaline running through your body, if you're asleep or not, or if you're dreaming or not. And, anyway, that's another thing that happened that was unexplainable, and really scary when you think about.
You might want to get somebody like
what could have actually happened.
You probably need somebody like Paul Yoder had. You need to have somebody come over to your house and, sprinkle some, what is it, spirit water around or whatever the hell it is.
Or burn some sage or something. Yeah. I don't live there anymore, like I said, but that was the only other thing that happened that was actually, and one other thing, but that was actually scary. But now I realize, in my just, it was probably scary because I was reacting to whoever this ghost is that lives in that house was just fiddling around or whatever, trying to open the door, or I don't know, from the inside. And I happened to catch it. I happened to see it. And it was scary because I thought somebody was burglarizing us, when that's impossible. Because they had, they couldn't have, if somebody had been burglarizing us, they couldn't have been outside the door, opened the screen door, and then unlocked our front door and then turned the knob. You understand what I'm saying? The door was still locked from the outside. I'm sorry, from outside of the house, the door was still locked. So they couldn't have locked it if they were out there and they closed it back, because it can only be locked from the inside of the house. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. So it's just the inside knob was the one that was turning. It's like.
Yes, correct.
Well, there you go.
That's just two little things that I can share right now. But my sister and I experienced something else, together one time. She has no memory of it.
But you gotta save some of these for other shows.
I know. Yeah.
All right. But I think I'm about ready to end the show because I've been on it for 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Okay.
Almost 3 hours.
But thanks for letting me call in, and like I said, I can get some pictures and stuff and explain.
Yeah, maybe get your mom on. You guys can come on together.
I would love to. She loves to talk about it.
Oh, good.
She loves it. So
there you go.
She's 69 years old, so she loves to talk about this stuff.
That's still young at this point.
All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me come on, Gray.
No, it was awesome. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye. Yeah. Well, that clears the decks in the call area. I kind of figured out how to, to mediate the trolls. So it's still kind of difficult. I don't know, for some reason, I have it set that if you, when you come on, you're immediately muted, and then I can also let the people unmute themselves. Well, I turned that off, and somehow that person was still able. Maybe I need to restart Zoom or something to have that take effect. I don't know, but and then there's also something else that you set after that. So once you get 2 or 3 calls in, you just go boom, and then those are the only calls that are coming in. But yes, I thought that was, come on, you guys, that was pretty cool, wasn't it? It'd be awesome if we had. The problem is when you get bigger crowds, sometimes that's when the weirdos come in. But you just block and move, block and move, block and move, block and move. I blocked 3 people. They make one comment and they're out of here forever. Now they can take the time if they want, creating a whole new Gmail, YouTube account, and then making another comment, and they'll just be removed immediately. So that's what I want the moderator. When somebody makes, I don't care if you guys are in an argument or something, and one of you calls each other a name, that's different than just showing up and throwing out a racist term or something. Okay, like the idiot that called, and a couple of the people. Same person's probably the same person that's commenting in the chat, right? Just immediately remove them, hide them on the channel the second they make comments like that. But if somebody thinks someone's being rude and the other person goes, well, screw you, blah, 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 don't remove them for that. Put them on 300, and then if they keep going and going and going, kind of look at those things logically. Yeah, that was a bit of it's so weird because I love Art Bell, right? That was tonight's show was very similar to like maybe Ghost to Ghost AM that he used to do, but it's not really because it wasn't all just about ghosts, right? It's about anything. So it can be any sort of thing that you can't explain. All right. So this is the, you know, it's where we're at. I'm thinking of doing this on Fridays, though. You know, because after a week, unless there's some breaking news on a case that we're following, something like that. But I'd like to, and I think I need to keep mentioning it on, you know, my regular channel because more people might be interested, you know, out of the thousands of people that are subscribed there. I got to promote it there and see if I can get some people to come over here. And then if you guys can help me out and put the channel in any groups you might be in on social media, maybe Twitter, things like that, that would really be helpful. Yeah, it was fun. And Ada, that's just in the chat there, she has one of the personal paranormal videos, the 6 that I've made. She has one. We still debate on, like she was really scared when this knife came off of a counter and a door slammed, but really wasn't scared at all when the old style television knob was turning. It was like, that shit right there would scare the hell out of me. Like, like how does that turn on its own when it doesn't have a remote control on it? Okay. So, that's her story in the... I always give her crap for that. Well, twice on the show. I interrupt her and say, so really, the door slams behind you, and the knife fell off, but the TV knob didn't scare you. See, that would. Right, Ada? I think Ada has it on mute. Yeah. Oh yeah, you blocked some too. Can you guys actually hear me right now? I think Ada has it on mute though, because she's not even responding to my comments on her personal paranormal. Maybe she's trying to, you know, diss. Ah, you guys can hear me, yeah. Weird. I see. Okay. Yeah, I was just telling about how you weren't scared when the knob on your TV turned by itself. Hey, look at this LJ right there, Illiterate Ink, from back in the day. Yeah. Well, I don't want to do any more. It's been 3 hours already, but I thought it was pretty cool. Had a good, you know, around over 100 the whole time. Let me see. Let me, since you're all here, maybe we can try out maybe we can switch up the music from time to time. But this music's so perfect. I mean, it's like, it's so, I don't think you could actually pick a better music than that. It's just, it just feels like it just works, you know, the whole time. So let's see, I have these other ones. Let me see what they sound like. I forgot. I put this folder together with different paranormal ones. So this is called, next one, this one's Mystic Force. Let's see. So that's a little too upbeat, I think. And then let's see this one. This one's spooky. Oh, wow. Maybe that's a good way. That's good intro music. Personal paranormal experiences. Friday nights on Personal Paranormal Experience channel. This one is pretty good right here. Oh boy, I gotta fix my cloud so it loops around. Come join Personal Paranormal Experiences on Fridays. Don't miss it. Do not miss the stories told by individuals. Yeah, that's wild. Alright, so there's that one. So now, so far we've got this one. See, this is really good when people are just telling their stories, right? And then the last one we played, I guess it would depend on the story. We could throw that one in there, but then let's see this one. Oh yeah, this one was always pretty good too. It was a scary night on January 5th, 2017. I was walking down the street, and a black orb was following me on the other side of the street. It looked very similar to Mercury, but it was all black, how it would change shapes. And then it crossed the street in front of me, and I felt a presence. It was evil. Yeah, man. All right, so that was pretty good too. All right, that one, and then let's see what this one sounds like. Ooh, yeah. Cha cha cha. Yeah, turn it into... you could almost make a rap out of this. This one's kind of cool too, though, isn't it? I was thinking I could talk a little bit more quiet like that when I make a video on cases. But look at this music here. This is weird. I got you right there. I freaked you out, I guarantee it. One of you jumped back when you saw that. Come on, you know it. Boom. Alright, so there's that one, right? So this is another one of these, but this one's better than the other one that sounded like this, I thought. The 5 deadliest serial killers. Number 1. Jeffrey Dahmer. The Barbarian. Yeah, no, he isn't the number 1, but... Anyways, okay, and then, let's see. Yeah, I've got to definitely have a radio face. What do you guys think of this one? So far, do you guys like those, well, I don't know how to rank them, you know. Yeah, this one's kind of spooky too, right? It's only a minute 19. How about this one? Oh, I have that for my super chats. See, that would be for like a, almost like, what do you call it? Like a Catholic priest putting an exorcism type thing. Yes, Gregorian chants. All right, so far, let's see. This is a good one, though, right? Yeah, so I'm liking this one. Well, at least I've got some good ones to use. See, I'm letting you guys, you know, see what the very beginning of this show is. Since I'm just now putting it all together, I'm sure this will... I don't even think I need the word personal paranormal experiences up there anymore. You know, maybe PPE. I like PPE, sounds pretty good, right? Have you ever had a PPE? Well, what's that? Well, it's personal paranormal experiences. Okay, do you hear that? Start asking people, have you ever had a PPE? Then they'll say, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, then check out the Personal Paranormal Experience channel. Yeah. Anyways, I'll put this one back on. All right, everybody. Hey, listen. I want to thank you guys for coming here on the maiden voyage of the first live episode and call-in talk show of Personal Paranormal Experiences. Hopefully you guys can take this video and share it around and get people excited about coming on, because I think this is something that a lot of people are interested in, but there really isn't a channel doing this. Okay, of course, right after this, everyone else will start doing it, but let's see if we can get a lot of people going on this. I think it's... I always think it's really fascinating. There's a lot of people that have tons and... Yeah, there's tons and tons of people out there that have stories that are really unbelievable, but they really experience them. I don't think anybody really just invents something and calls up a show and wastes, you know, to tell a story. There might be 1 out of 1,000 people that would do something like that, you know? Right. So, yes, we got over 802, all right? So, maybe by next week, what I should probably do is download this and, well, I don't know if I should put it on my other channel, because it's not crime related at all, but I did put the Personal Paranormal individual videos out there because they were only 15 minutes long, but I think it's just better to do it this way. I think it needs to be just kind of separate, and I can at least let people know over there that it's happening. So, there you go. All right. So I really appreciate everybody showing up tonight. Thank you for all the moderators and everybody who called in. It really wasn't that bad, was it? Come on, tell everybody. It wasn't bad at all to call in. But I could really use your guys' help this time. Guys and gals, all right? When I say guys, it's a generic term for me. All right? But I could really use your help in getting the word out there. Maybe if you can put it on Twitter, if you're in any kind of groups out on social media, maybe join some of the paranormal ones and say, hey, here's a show. You know, this isn't a show for mediums and psychics, though, okay? So I don't want you to... It's just regular people experiencing things. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So those were great calls. See? Sold You Photos just said it wasn't that bad. But the operative word is that bad. Yeah. So it was bad. It just was, it wasn't that bad. That's how women parse information. Well, you look great tonight. Tonight. Yeah, we use that one all the time. Hit the Liger goblins will suck on your toes in your dreams. Well, some people might actually like that. I wish I could show you this cat that showed up on Facebook. It looks just like the gremlin that was described earlier. I don't even know what the hell it is. If it's a cat, I'd be, one weird looking thing. Unfortunately, my screen isn't working. The screenshot. So, all right, everybody, that's it. Thanks again. Let's think of something. What should I say on this show? I guess be safe out there is still good on this one too, right? But I think it's more like, well, that's really all you can say, I guess. It's appropriate for both channels, all right? So that's all I got for you guys on the show. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, for everybody who did the call-ins, for the moderators, for just people in the chat talking. I appreciate it. And until next time, be safe out there.